See your signs going up.
No, yeah, that's right.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
I don't see her that was strict,
Here's a rule. For your first time in the chair, you gotta bring it in under an hour.
No, I ordered
Peace.
I wanted to go line by line, so.
So we can do a deep dive.
pizza. Or we can go to a new donut shop.
We haven't done it. Facebook, oh yeah. If you ever see me on Facebook, just pull the trigger. If you ever see me looking at Facebook, just pull the trigger, that's all. Something's gone terribly wrong in my life. I just got back from the Grand Canyon, this lady's looking for everybody's like name, address, and email numbers. I don't give a damn. I don't want to be on your social media. I don't want to be on travel and don't tag me in nothing. I have nothing to do who I am or what I do.
Rob,
As long as my customers are happy, that's all that matters.
Rob, put your mic on. Mike.
In comparison to a couple years before,
I know, but
yeah.
I do. Well, two. I have it here. So she probably took Andrew's 3. She probably doesn't have it turned on.
Moving fast and it has to get How long does it take you to get
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order. A quick reminder to please turn off or silence your cell phones. I guess I should turn on my microphone so y'all can actually hear me. All right, we will start with the invocation, please. Mr. Thornberry.
Heavenly Father, we are so grateful for our airport and those who are responsible for running it and the citizens that we serve. We ask you to guide our decisions today to your will. Please keep us healthy and safe as we go throughout our day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Mr. Hancock.
Please join the authority members in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Thornberry,
Here.
Mr. Carr,
Present.
Mrs. Oliver,
Here.
Mr. Parrish,
Here.
Mr. Hanzik,
Here.
Mrs. Coppola,
Here.
and we have Mr. Andrews on the phone.
Here.
Thank you.
Great. All right, citizens input. Anyone wishing to address the board during this portion should state your name for the record. Each citizen is allowed up to 2 minutes to express their opinion on agenda items only. All right. Seeing none, we will move on to the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget presentation and get a good deep dive into our budget.
So this is going to look familiar if you've been on the board for a while. It's every year we present the numbers up front and then go through the graphs and show how things are growing, contracting, and changing. And then I invite all of the board plus any public who wants to come in, schedule a meeting and we can do deep dives into these. Here I can't pull up what goes into each line item. We have it printed out. Heather can answer a few questions, but it's a lot easier to drill down on the computer program that has all these numbers in it. So if you want any specifics to what's in the ATM concession fee, you can come in and we can go through that. But the budget is presented in front of you. Like most of our years, the budget is variable based on flights. Allegiant is showing some growth next year in November and December, but through the rest of the year, we're showing flat, just to be conservative. We don't have all of their flight schedule for the full year. And then we're averaging 82% load factor, which is a little conservative. We averaged 86 in 2024. So the forecast for the end of year-end 2024, the budget is about 23 million. We're looking at about $1 million additional revenue next year. Go to the next slide. And expenses are going up at about the same rate. Look about a 14% margin next year based on our current budget, which is pretty good. We budgeted for 14% last year. We're going to end up probably closer to 16. We're doing pretty good. We've been able to keep some of our expenses down, and you can see the numbers, the variances through there. But let's move on to the next slide. This is our below the line income and expenses, PFCs, CFCs, and interest income. And then, our capital contributions next year is about almost 9.5 million, or a little over 9.5 million. And our net position will increase somewhere around 16 million. So we'll be putting a few things into inventory as we finish the year. Go to the next slide. And then our total revenues and expenses for the year will be $56 million. So a big year. Last year was 51. We budgeted 56, and we ended up, and that's because of some, grant and project costs that are lagging behind, just because projects aren't moving as fast as we ever want them to. So let's get into the graphs, and then we can always come back and look at the numbers at the end. They'll show back up. For some reason this one seems out of order to me, but we may move it later on. Just shows, this is basically prior to becoming a commercial airport. This was the biggest money maker on the field. It was gas. We're a big gas station and a landlord. But you look at the breakdown, Jet A this is FBO sales, Jet A off the truck. This does not include Allegiant Airlines, so this is all the general aviation jet fuel. 1.3 million in gross profit, and then Avgas 206,000. That's self-serve and off the truck, and we did just open up our second self-serve last week or 2 weeks ago, and it is, I think we're averaging about 250 gallons a day in it, so that's good. We were only going to put in a 500-gallon tank, and I'm glad we put in a bigger tank. So next slide. Emplanements, obviously one of the biggest driving factors for our budget, because the emplanements push parking and rental cars, and we're I think conservatively showing not 958,000, 956,000 emplanements next year. Allegiant is supposed to get their first 737 in August, which is August, so hopefully sometime this month we should see 3 of those by the end of the year here. And they've got to fly those to new locations, so we're hoping Savannah is just a first announcement for us, and we'll get some more cities throughout the year. We're hearing a lot of good things in the industry. Sunseeker is getting a lot of interest in the southeast, so there's some airlines looking at flying. Now, I'm not going to say they're coming here, but they're coming to Southwest Florida, increasing some flights from some other airports that we're interested in, and hopefully we can get some of that traffic, because This is the biggest resort in Southwest Florida now and the newest, and obviously people want to come to the new thing. So we're hoping that number will grow. Yeah, I think we'll ultimately break the 1 million passenger mark either next year or in '26. Next slide just shows the breakdown by month. It's pretty typical of Florida airports. We peak in March. What's atypical is we also get a June, July peak, and that's just us. But we're still showing 25 to kind of mimic 24, so you see those numbers a little down. I think that's going to reverse, but we try and be very conservative with the budget since we don't know what those are until they produce their schedules, and they produce their schedules about 6 months out. So this is parking lot revenue, obviously one of the biggest drivers in our budget, and we did the $1 a day increase in long-term last year. And we went from 4.5 million to 4.9 million. With the slight passenger increase, we're looking at 5.1 million for next year. Again, that's driven by enplanement, so that could go up or down based on Allegiant's numbers. Next slide is rental car income. The anomaly in '22 was rental cars were terribly expensive, and we got 20% of gross. Our new contract is it's very standard. We're getting a smaller percent of gross, but we get minimum guarantees. So we have, you won't see that big jump if car prices went up. We rented a lot fewer cars in '22, but the prices were just through the roof because of COVID and the lack of rental cars. So we're projecting a slight increase, exactly the same as the number of enplanements we're going to increase. The next slide is revenue per enplaned passenger, and I think, this is by month. We average about 1453. That's a number we watch very closely, but we mimic most small hub airports. As a matter of fact, we do better than most when it comes to revenue per enplaned passenger, so we're proud of this. Our food and beverage and concessions and vending has gone way up. And ground transportation is an amazing one to me. 5 years ago, Turo didn't exist, and we didn't have contracts with any of the Ubers and Lyfts out there, and today that number is a pretty big number. So, next slide.
Can you elaborate on how we compare to other airports and those fees that you collect?
So we collect $3 per enplaned or per passenger pickup. We don't collect on a drop-off. Florida state law doesn't allow it. And that is the same for every user, whether it's a taxi, Uber, or Lyft. We're generally either right in line or slightly below most airports. Airports our size, we're in line with Sarasota, Fort Myers. I think they're a little bit higher than us, and everybody's looking to increase. I think we're looking at our rates and charges now, and we're probably looking at a 50-cent increase.
And as far as sharing any of those fees with the airline?
We don't share any of our fees. That's our model's a little different than some airports. All of our revenue stays with us. We don't have a revenue share with them.
And can you just do like a brief overview of our economic model, just for those of us or those in the audience who might not have heard it before?
Sure. So this goes back to my predecessor, and obviously we had no traffic in 2005. We're pretty desperate in 2005. If those of you were here, we had been hit by Hurricane Charlie, and although Hurricane Ian did more damage, Hurricane Charlie was pretty devastating to our incomes. We lost about 50% of our revenue based on our rents being decimated, and we had $100,000 in lost income insurance, so we were pretty underwhelmed with our budget. And right about that time, an airline came, and I honestly told Gary he was crazy. We don't can't handle airline service, we don't have a tower, we don't have ARF, we don't have a terminal. But he said, shut up, rebuild the airport, and I will work on this. So we put together a model with Skybus that they paid basically a small user fee, and that increased through the years. Now, they didn't increase because they went out of business in 7 months. But we noticed that our incomes were pretty high, and we didn't charge for parking at the time. So we went about a year without service, and when Direct Air came to us, again, we're slightly desperate, and I said, Gary, we made money with Skybus in 7 months, let's just do it for free. So we charged a turn fee to put fuel in the airplanes. I think at the time it was $150. That's come down with the increase in service. And so that was all we charged the airlines. Today we charge a little bit more. But we did that because, one, what differentiated us between Sarasota and Fort Myers? We didn't have a pretty building at the time. I think we have a nice building now, and we're going to build a nicer one. We didn't have some of the amenities, and so the way to differentiate ourselves with the airlines was cost, and we did that, and it was fairly successful. In our last master plan, we did a financial analysis. We had an independent service come in and look at everything, and he sat down with me and he said, James, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to have to charge landing fees, you're going to have to charge rents, you're going to have to charge this. But let me look at your books. And he looked at the books and he came back and said, don't change a thing. So it's different. And will our next contract be the same? Probably not. We have had some increased expenses. We've had some unfunded mandates from the federal government that we're having to absorb. ARF, LEO, passenger screening, this employee screening that we're having to absorb. So the additional baggage handling cost with this new system that's going in. So they're going to be paying for all of that. All the users will be paying for that. But, our model's different. We don't have a revenue share. We get to keep everything. But, if you look at these numbers, our net revenues, and this includes CFCs, PFCs, entitlements, it's a pretty big number. Cost us about $8.50 a passenger this year, $8. And we're netting 17 last year and 16.70 next year. So.
James, you might want to explain the historic contracts with the airlines, the compensatory and the other one. And I'd like to go on and say, Vanessa's question is going to probably be answered, as you alluded to, in the next couple of years when we address those costs with the airlines.
Yeah, I mean, usually you charge the airline a fee. You figure out your budget. You charge them a landing fee, a terminal rents, an overnight fee, a ramp fee, a gate fee, and then at the end of the year, you balance your budget and you give them money back, or you ask for more money. With us, we're responsible for the budget. And so if we don't make money, it's on us to find a way to make more money. I think, in my opinion, if I was running a business and I didn't know what my expenses were at the end of the year, like the airlines, because they're relying on us to be economical, it would be difficult. I do see flaws in our model at times, and when we have to absorb something like ARF a few years ago, that was a big hit. We went, and not a few years ago, many years ago now. But we're working through it, and our model's changing as we move along. I mean, there's going to be a graph showing what Allegiant has paid us, and it's gone from 2019 at $540,000 to next year $1.4 million. So people who say Allegiant pays nothing it's just not the case. But do they pay as much here as they do at Sarasota? No. Do they pay as much here as they do at Fort Lauderdale? No. Do they pay as much here as they do at St. Pete? Yeah, pretty close. So.
But our net revenue per in-plane passenger rivals that of those
yeah.
airports that do charge the airline a fee and then do the cost sharing with the parking.
So we ran our budget a few years ago just for me, on Sarasota's model and our model. And at the end of the day, revenue per plane passenger, we were slightly ahead of them. So it's just, obviously it's worked. If you look at our money in the bank, it's gone up. The ability for us to do projects has increased. Prior to having commercial service, our 10% match on federal grants, we wouldn't have had the money to do it. And that's what happens to a lot of GA airports. They don't have the money to match the federal funds, and they start to decay. So ultimately, it's been a good thing. I've spoken at finance conferences and people come up to me and say, how do you do it? The main thing is don't have debt. I mean, that's the biggest part of being able to do it like this. If you have a few million or a few $1 million a month in debt payments, it hurts. So, but it's a constant thing on our minds, and we every financial decision we make is made looking at the revenues to make sure it's not going to hurt us. I mean, the $23 million baggage handling system I choked on, but ultimately, with the funding and the way it came in, it's something that we have to do, and the fact that the TSA is participating so much in this project, that's not a guarantee. I mean, RSW built all of theirs after TSA was implemented, and I think they're still waiting on one payment from the federal government, and that was how many millions?
21 million program.
And that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and they're still waiting on the final payment. So we're getting our money up front. That's the reason we're doing it.
You may recall last meeting or so, prior to the stability of the airlines coming in, the airport was about to go broke.
Yeah, we were running about $1 million a year budget, and we were making, obviously you have to have a balanced budget, but that doesn't mean you're not pulling money out of reserves. And in my first few years here, even as a consultant, we were pulling money out of reserves to make the budget balance. Not a lot, but we were. And generally that was on paper, we could fluctuate prices of fuel and hopefully make that back. But today it's a lot more stable, and I tell everybody it's a lot easier to budget when you have $3 million that you're putting into reserves at the end of the year than it is when you have $3,000.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's go to the next slide. This just shows revenue versus operating airline-related revenue per plane passenger and our net. And you can see it's pretty stable. 22, again, that was rental car fees were just so high, so our net went up. But the next slide, and we added this just because there's a lot of, they operate for free. So this is how it's increased through the years. 2025 is going to be significantly higher because they're leasing 2 new buildings from us. Because of the 737, they have to have a separate maintenance storage facility, so they're leasing that. They're moving their food and beverage facility into the building next door. So they'll, their commissary will be over there. It's in an air-conditioned space instead of in the hangar. The hangar will be converted to the A320 storage, and then the other building will be 737 storage. So
737s are
3, that's the plan. All right. So these are the pies. I love pies. 2024, this is the same slide you saw last year as the proposed budget, and this is everything, all our revenues, mostly airline related, 70% industrial leases, 12%. I think that's going to go down a little next year on the next slide because we're losing a couple of post-hurricane land leases. Let's just go to the next slide. Actually, it didn't go down at all, but not percentage-wise. Airline-related revenues is down 1%, and that's just because, obviously the total revenues are going up, but, we're selling a little more fuel, the FBO is making a little more money, hangar, and, we're building more hangars, so that's going into those. Revenues aren't that exciting since we've gone through them all, so let's go to expenses. And 2024, and every year, personnel is our biggest expense. This is 53% of the total airport expenses is salaries. That includes payroll taxes, Medicare, retirement, and our employee development. Utilities, repairs and maintenance, and then airline related, and that's everything that goes into the terminal. Some maintenance, airfield maintenance and stuff go into that. And then one that's probably bigger than ever before last year and probably even bigger next year is insurance. As we have seen in my time here, a 10-fold increase in insurance rates, but a 2 times increase just last year. So let's go to 2025. And you can see the numbers just don't change a lot, percentage-wise. Marketing and promotional is probably the biggest change. We're putting 250,000, Kaylee, is that right? 200,000? 200,000 into a airline marketing fund to market new routes. And so this would have to be a new airline or a new route serving at least 2 times a week. And so there's different amounts, more than weekly, seasonal, so there's different promotional rates that they will get, but you guys approved that at a meeting a few months ago. So that's why that number's gone up, and we've gotten amazing to me that an airport up the street, Tampa, $12, RSW, $12 per in-plane passenger, 14. We're free, but they're offering $200,000 of promotional, so they get a flight. Different departments. The finance department would say, are you crazy? But the planning department loves promotional. So we put it in there, and then all of a sudden we're getting a lot of interest in stuff like that. So Kaylee and I are speed dating again in a few months with the airlines, and hopefully we'll get something from that. I think we will. This is a slow process. We talked to Allegiant for 6 years before they came here.
James, I got a question on personnel.
Yes.
How many FTEs, full-time equivalents, do we have?
Beth, I think we're at 90 total employees.
No, full-time equivalents and then part-time.
We were at 66 full-time employees. And then we are at 113 total. 3 of those are still seasonal.
But our FTEs are right, just below 100, if you put those all together.
Okay. And we're showing, obviously, a salary increase, and what are you guys planning?
Doing a 3% cost of living and then a 3% based on your review. So it could be 0 to 3.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense, especially when it comes to retainage of employees. They don't get the whole shebang, and they got to earn apparently half of it, which is more than fair. Because I imagine, like any other business, retaining employees, especially part-time, is difficult.
You know, our full-time, part-time balance has changed significantly in the last 19 years that I've been here. We were heavily part-time, and now we're heavily full-time, which is a significant cost. I mean, our benefits package is, for a full-time employee, is around $30,000 a year. That's just our benefits package. I know. So it's a big cost to put somebody on full-time with retirement, with health care.
What is that percentage-wise? About 35% of the individual salary, roughly?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there?
Yeah, the average, yeah.
But when you look at our total, we have a $56 million budget, and the fact that we're doing it with only about 100 full-time equivalent employees, that's
No,
impressive.
and I always say this, when I took over facilities here, 15 years ago, and the first thing I did was go to Sarasota, because they were a very similar sized airport to us, exact same governance, and I had a friend of mine take me through their facilities department and was just looking at, because we needed a new facilities building, and I was trying to get something put together to build one. I finally did. It's only taken 20 years, but we're building one now. They had more people in facilities than we had. So, at the time, we had 45 employees. They had 47 people in facilities.
You know, probably our most valuable asset are our employees.
And you know, and we just had an employee fair yesterday where we had our bank partners in, our insurance partners in. Obviously, it's you know, open enrollment season, so we want to make sure everybody understands everything that's new in our insurance program. But not just that insurance, but you know, other life insurance and stuff that we offer to employees at their expense. We had everybody in, talked about, you know, not just what we provide, but, you know, we all work together, we all are out in the heat, and talked about safety, and we have a very, I would say aggressive, but proactive safety program here for our employees. So I think it was a good thing. I think we had about 80%, 90% of the employees show up. We had some raffles. It was a great turnout. So it's just, you know, we're paying a lot more attention to employees because it's harder to find good employees.
Keep them, yeah.
And not only do we want to find them, we want to keep them when we get them. So, all right. Next slide. So these are internal reserves. One of the things that, you know, we used to get beat up on by the auditors is we needed more reserves. Building reserves was a big one for him because we depreciate our buildings over 20 years, but we don't throw them away. So we have to maintain them. So we were building up building reserves. And when I took over, we started funding the building reserve at about, I think, $500,000 a year and then $1 million a year. So we're up to a little over $4 million in our building reserves. Our parking lot reserves, if you'll recall, when we changed our rates, we put all of the increase into a parking lot reserve that allows us to expand parking lots. We're going to be putting in new parking lot equipment next fiscal year, and that'll come out of that reserve. Our air traffic control and our navigation, we have to put in a new DME this year because our DME is dead, our distance measuring equipment that tells planes how far away they are from the airport. Just really great analog equipment built in the 60s. Ours, I think, was one of the first ones off the shelf in the 60s, so we're having to upgrade that. Can't find tubes for it. I don't know. It's not new equipment. The FAA has decided we should buy a new one. T-hanger reserves, that's going to go down next year as we're putting new doors starting on 605 on the north side of those buildings. We're adding gutters, so this is not a problem in the future, but the north sides, all the dew falls off in the morning. The dew sits on the superstructures of the doors, and we just get a lot of rust. No amount of paint will ever fix that problem. So we're going to change the doors to the newer style, which don't have the superstructure at the bottom, but we're also adding gutters to those buildings. But we're going to probably do one building a year until we get them all done. But 605, newest building, probably has the worst problem. And I think that's because it used to be up against the trees and had more shade than the other ones do. The insurance escrow fund, we're really not funding that very big. That's to cover insurance deductibles and things. And then our contaminant and pollutant reserve, we've kind of capped that out as we just weren't using it. And, so those are internal reserve funds. When we say our reserves, they're not restricted. That's our money. It's fungible. We can move it around to different accounts, but this is how we kind of internally separate it. Next slide. So this is exciting. We moved out of SunTrust because they were paying us nothing. I think less than 0.5% in interest. And I think now we're right about 5% in interest. And so last 2023 was our first full year with the new bank, and we got 1.1 million this year. It'll be 1.5 next year. Probably about 1.5 because obviously we're spending some cash. But a nice
More than the avgas.
Nice found, yes, it's found money. And we negotiated with the bank. We called them in, and we had talked to some other banks, and SunTrust didn't want to talk at all. And so we, a few years ago, came to the board and asked if we could move our money to a local bank. It's obviously in a government account. It's secure. It's exact same security we had before, but we're making money on our money instead of it just sitting there. So let's go to projects real fast. And so we'll be talking about projects again in the next meeting, so we won't spend too much time on this, but this is 2024 projects. A lot of these, while they're under design, and the expenses won't start until next year. The terminal expansion, that includes baggage handling terminal and the rental car building, $73 million. FBO storage hangars, one that we're still finalizing the negotiations on. Building 611 is the replacement for row hangar 2. That's under construction and almost done. So you can just see how they break out. A lot of projects, a lot of work. The project team here is 3 office staff, 2 field staff, and they're handling $100 million in projects. Very busy.
So what do they do after lunch?
They've been playing golf, they go to the shooting range. So I'm very proud of that department. That used to be my department. I did it by myself, but
That was a good one.
So funding sources for next year's projects, it's not a lot of our money next year. It's PFCs, it's DOT reimbursements, and FAA reimbursements. I'll talk a little bit about FAA and FDOT reimbursements because I've gotten some questions. We compete for grants with the FAA, but that money is put into a trust fund through ticket taxes, and we're a donor state into the FAA trust fund, and we're a donor airport into the FDOT trust fund. So everything we're doing is trying to claw our money back. That's money that our passengers have spent. So we get entitlements, which work out to about $4 per enplaned passenger that we're guaranteed, and then the rest we compete for. So, the money, and I can argue with the way the system's set up, but this is the system we have in the United States. The government collects the money and then we beg for it back. Canada's different. The airport just collects all the money and does what they need to do. So if we don't take this money, we're sending it to somebody else. So, it's not that we can't operate the airport without FAA grants. It's the FAA and the federal government has set it up that we have to beg for money from them. And it's very restrictive what we can spend the money on, how we can spend the money, even our PFCs. You guys on the board know that every 2-3 years we have a new PFC application. We spend thousands of dollars putting it together to send to the FAA. send to the airlines. They all have to approve the projects, and then we can collect the money, put it in the bank until we need it, and spend it on those projects only. At the end of the project, we have to do a closeout if we need more money or less money. It's cumbersome. It's a lot of work. It costs money to collect this money, but this is the system we live in. We're one of the heaviest regulated industries in the U.S., and this is the playpen we play in, but you know, it's what's required to build airports, and we're good at it. All of my staff has been very successful. We have very good relationships with the FAA, with the DOT. Chad, through FAC, is meeting with the DOT secretary often. Prior to that, Chad and I were doing it. We meet with our FAA representatives. We've had 2 or 3 meetings in Washington this year. We've had multiple meetings with the new ADO manager just coming on. The great thing about him, he and I started this job, and me as a consultant, him as an airport project manager with the FAA on the same week. And we have been close friends for 22 years now, and so I have a great relationship with him. Got his cell phone number, texted him the other day, and got an issue resolved like that. So it's, you know, it's all relationships, and we work very, very hard at it.
You know, I think it's important to mention that the discretionary funding, whether it be on the federal or state level, becomes political, and political on the political side, but also on the bureaucratic side.
Very much.
And those relationships are really good. And even on the political side, any relationships that board members might have with politicians, even outside of our area, are very important, because you can go to those people and say, hey, our guys are interested in pushing for money for a local project, and you can gain that, garner that support from other political types, even in the bureau, within the FAA and DOT.
No, it is, you know, if you had asked high school Jimmy if I was going to talk to politicians, I'd have told you you're crazy.
Yeah.
Still tell you you're crazy, but I have to do it.
That's part of the job.
Yeah, so.
James, can you just read exactly what tax is generated from our operations?
That fund DOT and FAA, you mentioned ticket sales.
So there's a ticket tax on every ticket, and so there's a lot of taxes on every ticket. If you notice, most Allegiant tickets, there's more taxes than there are at the fare, but there's a segment tax, a TSA tax, and just a ticket tax. All of that money goes into, the TSA doesn't, so don't worry about that. That goes to pay down the debt. But the ticket taxes go into the FAA, the DOT trust fund. We compete for about 50% of that. We get 50% of that. So we're guaranteed entitlements. So our, you know, the $7 per passenger tax that goes to the federal government, we get about 4 of that back, and then we compete for the rest.
There's also a fuel tax.
Then there's a fuel tax. So and that's how the DOT fund is funded. There's a state fuel tax on aviation fuels. It's gone from 7 cents to 2.85 per gallon. The airlines fight that constantly, and we go up and fight against it because that helps fund airports. Florida puts more money into airport infrastructure than 48 states combined. We're very aggressive on infrastructure, and that's how FAC started 53 years ago. As a group of airports got together and went to the DOT and said, hey, you know, we need more money. And you know, at the time it wasn't the DOT, it was the Roads and Bridges Department, and that's when they became the DOT, put together these trust funds, and they fund seaports, airports, spaceports, and roads and bridges, obviously now. But, so the money we're getting is money that's paid by our users and the users of the infrastructure at large. but we compete very hard for it. Obviously, commercial airports put significantly more into the trust fund than they get back, but that supports GA airports, and we all, you know, during a storm or during a disaster, the GA airports are extremely important because we have to get the commercial airports back operational, but you can start flying into GA airports a lot faster.
Thank you.
All right. Revenues and expenses. Heather and I started in 2005, so we take credit for most of this. Although our first 3 years were a little rocky. So, still going on a positive trend. I think it's one of the things that we spend the most time looking at is the delta between revenues and expenses. It's been pretty stable. I would love for it to be increasing on the revenue side faster, but I think, you know, we're maturing as an airport, as an industry. And, you know, the airlines are growing, but not growing at the rate they were. You know, there are years here where we're growing at 35%. That's just not sustainable. So we're although Allegiant's telling us a lot of growth next year, we're planning on about 5%. So, you know, that's what we're looking at. And actually, I think our numbers don't even show 5%, but I think that's what we're going to see. But we're keeping the delta pretty stable between operating revenues and operating expenses, and our salaries are increasing, but increasing at a slower rate than our revenues and expenses as a whole. You know, if you look back, when Heather and I started, I think it was probably 9 years before our cost for employees went over $1 million a year, and now we're approaching $7 million, $8 million a year. So we have really grown as a business. We've gone from 14 employees to 100 employees. Something the board should be really proud of, because, you know, that is the leadership of management and the board to allow this to grow the way it has. A lot of airport directors ask me how the hell we did it, and you know, I can't tell them. A lot of it was luck, but you know, a lot of it was allowing Gary, who was about as crazy as you can be, I'm sure he's watching, to just do things that ultimately really worked out, and then allowing me to continue that, but kind of normalize the operation and stabilize processes and get things going, and allow me to bring in really good people to work around me. That's helped a lot. So
no pressure on us new guys, you know.
Yeah.
You gotta put that secret in your book.
Thank you for laying the tracks.
Not writing a book. Next slide, last slide in the deck, we can then get back into the budget itself. Total operating revenues from 2003 to 2025. It's gone up. It's gone up a lot, and you know, like I said, I think everybody in the room, everybody on the board, all the staff, it's you know, it's been a lot of work, and the guys that I've hired from other airports who have helped me a lot, because my airport experience is with 3 or 4 airports, mostly as a consultant. A lot of it's limited to here, and they've brought in a lot of knowledge and a lot of strength to give to me and staff. But they also say, how the hell do you do this? I mean, after Hurricane Ian, we went back to the office, and I think you guys said, yeah, buy 5 new trucks, and we spent a lot of money that meeting. One of the guys said, that would have taken 6 months. And, you know, it's just our ability to be nimble has allowed this to happen. So I want to thank all of y'all for the opportunity to be nimble and to prove that a very unconventional model can be successful. And I'm not saying it'll be successful forever the way it is, but we're going to stick to, as long as I'm here, we're going to stick to a low-cost, cost-effective, safe operation. And that's the end of the pretty pictures, and we're back to the budget. Again, I recommend all of you set a time, come in, let's spend an hour, dig deep into what each one of these numbers really means. We can drill down into any of them and see, exactly what is under them and how we come up with it. But any specific questions? I know Mr. Hansick had like 6 pages written down.
Well, my general comment is, after I got into the details and got my magnifying glass out to read it, I found it okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good when you look at it. Yeah, I'd approve it, it's good, it's a good report, and we're taking care of our employees, which is important, like I said earlier, and hopefully we'll break that 1 million employments this year.
I was really hoping we'd break it this year. I don't know why. I don't know why 950,000 employments is not as good as 1 million in my mind, but...
It's all interesting. If you really get into the details, this is next to my major bathroom at the house.
Oh, okay. With the do not disturb sign on the door.
And I think we ought to recognize that our Vice Mayor, Bill Dryberg, is here, sitting in there. I don't know, I wouldn't sit through the city of Punta Gorda's budget, but he is here.
I think their gallery is more aggressive than ours when they're talking about their budget.
Don't encourage anybody.
Oh, the seats are probably more comfortable.
So that's the end of this. That's the end of my presentation for this workshop. I will tell you that I encourage all of you, whether it's the community, it's staff, or board, please come in. Heather works really hard, her staff works really hard on putting this together. The software is sometimes cantankerous, but we can literally click on any of these items and it rolls down everything that rolls up into it, so you can see what all the costs are.
It really is super impressive. I have to say, like, their Excel skills are next to none, but it was really eye-opening for me to go through that with Heather and James, and I would very much encourage everybody to do it, because you just drill down, you can see to the penny. It's amazing.
James, you might want to explain the process that we go through legally in our budget.
Sure, and I was about to get to that.
Well,
so thank you for reminding me. So, this is a workshop. We don't vote on anything here. This is your first opportunity, obviously, to see the budget, besides the fact that you got it 7 days ago. Our next meeting on the 15th. I don't know why I'm looking for Kelly in the audience. On the 15th will be the first budget hearing. That's where you will vote on the tentative budget. That's also the last time we can make changes to the budget. So between today and the 15th, if you have an opportunity to sit down with us and you see something you want changed, let me know, and we'll make that change in the budget. But so you'll vote on the tentative budget on the 15th, and then in our September meeting, you'll vote on the final budget. Thanks to our legal counsel, we no longer have to do that meeting at 5:01, which was just an extra meeting for everybody to come in, especially the final budget, because you can't change anything, it's literally a vote. Was always a pain in the neck, because it's usually raining in September at 5:01.
And lightning.
And lightning, yeah.
Sitting in the middle.
Let's hope that's all it is.
All right, any board discussion?
No, it's terrific. Excellent.
Great, well, with that, I will go ahead and adjourn the budget workshop agenda.
And unless anyone needs a break, I'd just roll right into development.
Absolutely. I call the project development workshop to order.
And we're going to skip the invocation and the pledge, since we've done it, and just have a roll call, so it's an official meeting. Kelly? Sorry.
Mr. Thornberry?
Here.
Mr. Carr?
Present.
Mrs. Oliver?
Here.
Mr. Parrish?
Here.
Mr. Hanzig?
Here.
Mrs. Coppola?
Here.
Mr. Andrews, you still on the phone?
Yeah, here.
Thank you.
All right, citizens input. Would anyone like to come up and discuss the project development workshop agenda? All right, seeing none, let's move on to project development presentation.
So this is gonna, I mean, you guys have gotten a little bit of the agenda. We're gonna run through all of the projects and then kind of a timeline of where they're going. And then we'll end with the three major projects that are happening that there's probably gonna be the most discussion. Most people don't care about the maintenance building. But just introductions, you guys tell me what to do, and then I have Gary, who unfortunately is going to leave us sometime. But
Wait a minute.
yeah, I know, I'm not happy about it. I haven't approved the date, so I haven't told anybody. So.
You mean today, or?
No, not today. But
Half an hour?
Brett, which I stole from one of our contractors. I've known Brett for a long time.
Have them raise their hands so people can see who they are.
Brett's the good-looking guy in the corner there.
Well,
Gary's the gray-haired guy.
Oh, me. Okay.
He's not much older than me, which really frustrates me that he's leaving.
He has hair.
Corey, we brought Corey into the project team, what, about 4 years ago, Corey?
Oh, so, yeah.
Yeah, so 4 years ago as a project coordinator, then assistant project manager, now he's a full project manager. You know, like I say, we compete for grants, so writing grants is a major job. It's what I did as your consultant from '94 on the staff. You didn't have staff that could do it. You didn't have a lot of staff. But Corey has taken over that role. He learned a lot from Ron Ridenauer, who retired last year. Ron and I have known each other since '94. Ron and I were on the team that rebuilt the airport in 2005. So he learned a lot from him. We've progressed his career up, and he's just been a great asset to us. And then we brought on Paul as the internal project coordinator. He handles all the billing, all the invoices that we get from contractors to get them paid, to get them to the FAA, FDOT, and then through our finance department. And then Holly, who, I don't think Holly or Vaughn are here, but Holly's our vertical project inspector. He's new. We haven't had a lot of vertical work, but right now, a lot of our work is vertical, and then Vaughn does most of our flat work inspection, runways, taxiways. And so next year, or actually very shortly, we'll be starting 2 more major taxiway projects, and we have 1 more this year and then 1 more next year, and then we'll have most of the pavement complete. And then I say that, and we'll start another project. Next slide, please. So a little agenda. We're going to start with the projects under construction, go to the projects bidding, award, and funding, and then under design, 2025 projects, and then highlight the rental car, inline baggage, and commercial terminal. Those are probably the prettiest, most notable projects that people will see. A lot of these other things are behind the scenes. No one cares about a new perimeter road because no one gets to drive on it but us. But so we'll go through them all. And at any time, stop me, ask questions. The project team's here to answer anything that I can't answer. But let's begin. So we have 20 projects in process, under some form of process right now. So we have 8 projects that we just completed, 187 million under contract, 45 million secured in federal and state funding. That's not total. You know, we have more funding that's coming along behind those. We published 10 solicitations last year. That's up from 8 the previous year. And we have 30 contracts and grants we're currently managing. That's with 2 people, basically, 3 people.
Whoa.
We'll tell you Sarasota's engineering department has about 20 people in it, so we do a lot with a little. And honestly, if they came to me and said we needed somebody else, I'd say sure, but they don't. They get the job done, and we're very, very successful, so kudos to them. And they put 99% of this presentation together, so they're responsible for it if it's really bad, too. All right, next slide. Just a little layout of kind of what I just said, what's under design, what's under construction, and what's completed. Those of you who have been around here for a while, we rehabbed 927. We added Taxiway Gulf, which connected the air center, kind of completed the loop around the airport with taxiways. We added 24 T hangars, 9 box hangars, 10 box hangars on the ramp, and then last year we did all of Taxiway Delta, which was a tremendous project in coordination because we had to move aircraft, move tenants. That's probably our busiest taxiway when it comes to general aviation movements and commercial movements. So kudos to our team and our construction team and our designers that put that together. I was expecting chaos, and it went very smoothly. So you can look at what is currently under design, and we'll go through these individually, but you can see the blue is a lot of work that we're about to start. And then the yellow is under construction, which is our maintenance building, Building 611, which is a replacement, and then the GSE ground service equipment maintenance building, which is being replaced, and then baggage handling. So, next slide, under construction. So our maintenance building, which I said in 2006, I visited Sarasota to look at theirs. Ours still isn't as nice as theirs. I hate to say that, but it's our people think it's wonderful because it's a big step up. I can tell you, the maintenance department has been the redheaded stepchild of this airport since the 90s. They have always been moved into the building that was the least functional that we couldn't rent to anybody else. And they were kicked out of their buildings because someone else wanted it oftentimes. So it is nice that we have finally come to the point where we can build them a functioning, safe environment for them to work. The building they're in now is honestly terrible, and Ray and I had to completely strip all the ceiling tiles. Not Ray and I, but we managed it because it was infested with rats. We've had OSHA complaints on the building. So this is a great opportunity to just start from scratch. This is a combination operations and maintenance building. We're going to move badging into it, a lot of nice offices, training rooms, but mostly large bays, welding rooms, storage rooms. We're actually going to be able to find things when we need it, which is, we have stuff stored in units. We have stuff stored in the building next to the office building. We have stuff stored in trailers, so it'll be nice to have everything in one spot, have shipping and receiving right across the street where we can bring things in. This is going to be a great building, and then next year we'll be adding to this an outside storage, open storage for all our tractors, the things we can't fit inside. So,
Old building coming down.
I have made it my goal to tear down every old building on this airport the second it's empty, because I have a tendency to lease them out. And no, I don't want that building in the way. We have a lot of interest in that land. We've already presented a lease to a tenant for that entire area from the ramp to the rental car wash area, and they're looking at building a hangar and a 45,000 square foot operations facility there.
When you tear it down, we're gonna have a clean site.
Yes, yeah, so that, we've already done all the environmental on those two sites, so, yeah, we're good.
Yeah, that's an interesting place. If you ever have an opportunity to go through it,
Don't,
don't. And if you do, go find the shower.
yeah, no,
Pretty bad.
you know, everybody look across the street when you leave here, and you can see the new one going up. They're finishing painting the steel, and they'll start siding hopefully next couple of weeks. But it's a nice building. It'll be really beneficial to staff. You know, maintenance is a hard position. I mean, they're out working in the field all day. They've got a lot of stress. We do a lot with a little. We have 2 guys dedicated to building maintenance, 1 guy dedicated to fleet maintenance, and then the rest kind of float on mowing and just general maintenance. So you think back, we have added a lot of square footage to our inventory, and we've added about 3 people to the maintenance department. So again, they deserve this. I heard comments back when we built the admin building, because we had the FBO and an old hangar. We had maintenance in a very old building that, you know, our building was the Crystal Palace. Well, now the FBO is in a much nicer building than ours. I think this will be a nicer building than ours, so I'm going to start making that comment. You know, no, although I think they served a good purpose. They just blew away.
James, we have tradesmen on staff, correct?
So we have electrician, we have HVAC people on staff, and we have a welder. We don't have, you know, carpenters and stuff like that, a plumber. Our HVAC guys also done plumbing. But yeah, we do keep, and
How
that's
do you
new.
determine a threshold for outsourcing, for example, electrical, if as far as
I
internal?
think if it needs a permit, we outsource it. If it's moving a plug for a new device, we do it internally.
The airfield is all in-house.
Yeah, and the airfield electric is something you can't outsource. That is, you know, you call Gant Electric to work on a constant current regulator, and they look at you like you're crazy. Anything in the vault is pretty much us. So we do all of that, and that is specific airfield electrical stuff that you just can't outsource.
It requires specific certifications as well.
Yeah, training, all of our guys go to a lot of training, and you know, it's interesting stuff. You can't just grab one of those wires because they're constant current and it will hurt. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
James, we need to switch out Vanessa's mic. We're getting feedback from it.
Vanessa, how are you doing? Giving feedback. All right, and next slide just shows you a little bit of an aerial of the building. That's the last one. We're flying drone pictures on all our projects. One of our tower controllers is a drone operator, and he's doing these for us on all our projects. It's convenient to have a controller that's also a drone operator, because he can get permission from the tower to do it a lot better than anybody else. So this is about a month ago. The building currently has a roof. It's dried in. They're starting HVAC and electrical in it. The steel is all up. The roof is on the steel, and it's being painted.
When is it forecasted to be done?
Early next year.
Yeah. I would say we'd start moving in middle of winter, February. Next slide. A little bit of the facility itself. You can see the offices, badging will move into here. We have 2 badging rooms, badging training room where we'll have kiosks where people can sit down and take their tests. A little bit of break area for both ops and maintenance. some training facilities for them. Operations obviously has to do a lot of training, and our maintenance people are doing a lot of training. Electrical and mechanical spaces in our new buildings, because of the code, has become about twice what it used to be. So you see IT, electrical, and mechanical are huge spaces. Locker rooms, everybody will have their own locker, we'll have showers and places for them to keep their uniforms, and obviously bathrooms and everything else that's necessary. Going to have all of our badging staff will move in there, so that'll be more convenient for our tenants. They're coming from the 600s, the 200s, they'll be right there. And it'll keep a lot of traffic just out of the lobby in the admin building.
And access is on the...
Access will be down
Be on the
Golf
west
Course.
side, golf course.
Oh, next slide. The replacement hangar for building 207, that was row hangar 2. It was heavily damaged in the hurricane, and we worked out a deal with them to move it to the new location. It is nearing completion, although I think it's still scheduled end of the year. It looks a lot further along. And it's at that phase where it's a lot of interior work, so it'll just look like it's sitting. I'm sure TJ goes through that. People see the outside of the house is done, why can't I move in? It's got all the firewalls, the bathrooms are going in.
We haven't started a lot of the site work yet,
And then-
just due to the rainy season.
Yeah,
but-
and we got a lot of drainage to still do, so. But it's got, the doors are hung. We're working with FP&L to move a transformer that was, and I designed that, so I don't know why, it's in the way of everything. You can blame me.
I didn't say anything.
Never thought there would be buildings there when I put it there. But that's coming along. Next slide. So it is a replacement for the building that they had, 6 units, 660 by 60 units. Their lease is just going to move to this current building.
They got what, like 20 years left or
They got
something like
about
that?
17 or 20. Then they'll revert to us, then they can continue leasing it just at a different rate.
Are we still pushing a 2-year waiting list for hangar leases?
We're looking at that right now, but yeah, I think we're running about 18 months.
How,
These are 60 by 60.
These are large hangars. These are owned. It's condominium basically. They're individually owned.
FDOT, Florida Department of Transportation, how receptive are they to funding hangars?
So it
TJ's
ebbs and flows, and it's flowing a little more now. So we have money in our 5-year plan for more hangars.
Yeah, I think that TJ has, because there's a strong demand on it, but our revenue is,
Well,
you can't pay the things
so-
off with our rents.
My previous construction company, engineering construction company, built 605. I looked at that, it was $47,000 per unit. That was $5,000 more than 601 through 604. The door replacements are $50,000 a unit, more than the whole building was. Now, it's 20 years old, but still,
And what would interest rate on a leverage type situation be right now if we were to
I would
invest?
say on a commercial loan, if we could get it, it would be 7 plus. So, if you're talking $100,000 a unit, that'd be $1,000 a month.
And I can testify that costs have gone
Yeah.
through the roof, so when people ask, why aren't we building more hangars per the demand, there's our answer.
Because we can only charge, the going rate, which is about $450 a month.
A lot of people don't realize it's just not the cost of the building. You've got your taxiways, you got your access and drainage and all that kind of stuff that goes with it. I know when guys ask me about why aren't you building more hangars, I tell them, I said, well, we got plenty of real estate. You're welcome to lease a site and build your own, and then they...
Yeah, and we have, Wendy and Gary and I meet with potential tenants all the time that want to build, they want a 100 by 100 hangar, and I say, okay, I have a plan here, I just got this from my contractor, he can build it for $5.5 million, and we can lease it to you for $40,000 a month. And they're like, no, we don't want to do that. I said, well, then you can lease the land and build your own hangar. We can't afford that. So, you know, we're in a very difficult time. I mean, I wish 10 years ago we had money and we could have built when the industry was very soft. I'm not hoping for a recession, but I would hope that in the next softer construction period, we can take advantage of the money we have and maybe build something.
It's important to realize, you know, the corporate and GA guys that got airplanes here, you know, they're one of the legs of the three-legged stool, you know, we have to service those people, you know, within reason.
And I think, you know, one of the things, there is a huge waiting list right now. I want to see what happens when Venice finishes their hangars that were hurt damaged during the hurricane. Page finishes theirs that they tore down after the hurricane because of damage and are finishing. Naples finishes theirs. I think you're going to see that list contract because a lot of people are on every list just trying to get their planes back in a hangar. And so I think 2025, 26, you're going to see a little bit of a contraction of the list. You know, we're going to have to true our list up because obviously we can't call all those people every month to see if they still want a hangar. But as is evident is when we opened a 24 unit, we went through 80 people to fill a 24 unit. So the lists aren't solid. When we built 90 hangars, when we built the 600s, we had 180 people on a waiting list. We had vacancies for 10 years in that because the waiting list, and that was before we started charging to be on the list, but you know, the waiting lists are not 100%. So it's one of the reasons you just don't build 180 hangars. And we got a lot of flack from the tenants at the time because we had a set of hangars that we did not rebuild after Charlie because we had these under construction, and thank God we didn't rebuild those hangars and the ones we already had. We'd probably still be sitting with them empty.
Do you require a deposit when you put in roads?
We require a $100 fee.
Oh, that's hardly anything.
Yeah. All right, next slide. So that's a picture of those hangars under construction. Like I said, the walls are up on the outside, the doors are hung. They're probably starting to skin the doors now, and then they'll start the firewall separations on the inside, the bathrooms, and then we have to do the site work and pavement in front of them, and then get those opening, get those guys moved out. And that'll open up 6 hangars on the ramp, and so that'll have some wait list people come off. All right, next slide. Fuel Farm Road, right across the street. From here is our fuel farm. All of our trucks right now have to go out. You know, they're coming onto surface streets to get to the fuel farm, which isn't really allowed. All of our drivers aren't CDL hazmat drivers, so we're trying to keep them all confined to the airfield. It just makes a lot more efficient loop. Something that it's been on the plans for about 12 years. Something Gary always wanted to do. So we planned on doing it through straight down the 600 or the 200s taxiway into the fuel farm. We found out it was about $1 million worth of site work because we had to go through a large box culvert that one of my mentor in engineering put in, Scott Brady. So we keep messing things up. So we moved it. It's a little longer route, but considerably cheaper. And then we're going to fence off the fuel farm area, which is now a requirement with security to have that access control. So good project for us. Do we have any pictures of this one?
Yes, sir.
There's not a lot that we're doing. Next slide. That kind of just shows you where the new road's going. Those arrows are not for the fuel trucks. That's for construction traffic. But the fuel trucks will stay inside the airfield fencing, go to the fuel farm. They'll loop around the warehouse building One of the things that we've had to do is we had our deaf regeneration site, which is something that most people never know about. Our trucks have to sit and regen the diesel exhaust fluid, and it was on asphalt. Apparently that's not allowed with the FAA. So we built a concrete pad next to the warehouse there where the regeneration is now, so that'll be part of the loop around. We added some asphalt to the side. So they'll come in, refuel, loop back out, and get back on the airfield. We're excited about that. It's just going to really, it reduces the amount of time that it takes to get the fuel trucks back. With our new fuel contract, we're getting 7,500 gallon or 7,000 gallon? 7,000 gallon trucks. So they can fill up 2 planes instead of 1. Our current 5,000 gallons, we may be able to fill up 2, but usually just 1, so they work back and forth a lot. So hopefully these 2 things will reduce a lot of traffic on the airfield. And I don't think October 24th is going to happen, but it's not a lot of work, but we had a lot of rain, so they did their clearing and grubbing, and it's kind of sitting. We got some fence work going on now. All right, next slide. GSE maintenance building. This building 227 was a building that's been on this airport since probably the 60s. It was destroyed during Hurricane Charlie. We never fixed it, but we always had tenants in it, and it was a terrible building. We told everybody who leased it, you're leasing it as is, and it had holes in the side, it was rusting. It did not make it through the end, which was a blessing. So we've torn it down. We're moving GSE maintenance into an area that's kind of going to be a maintenance and operations base for the airlines in the future. FF and GG are the 2 buildings that I was telling you about earlier that we have a tenant looking at leasing all that land, and then that would be their project to build. We'll be building a new access road and new parking in the future for the EAA and for all of that around the what's now the existing fuel or rental car QTA facility, which is where they fuel and wash their cars, and we'll be moving the QTA facility to closer to where the rental cars are now.
So the wash rack is going to stay?
Temporarily. Yeah, that will ultimately go. That site will be available. But in this current layout, the wash rack can stay. The site goes all the way to the fuel tank, which will be moving. All right, next slide. Just the layout of the building, it bumps up to the existing ramp, and the first things we're doing is moving the driveway that gets to EAA, so they'll have access at all times. We'll have 2 roll-up doors. It's basically what they had before, just the access is on the ramp so that we're not bringing all the ground service equipment, I keep saying GSE, the ground service equipment off the airfield, and then they can work in there. That is a contractor they service our equipment as well as Allegiant's equipment, but they're an Allegiant contractor, and then they lease directly from us.
So we subcontract with the Allegiant
Just
GSE?
for the equipment that we need repaired.
Oh, our GSE stuff.
Yeah. If our staff can't do it. I mean, obviously our fleet people are proficient, but there are some things that are quicker and more efficient if somebody that does it all day does it. It's a Building 101 replacement. This is it's been known as the helicopter building, the Arcadia building, but it is Building 101. It's next to the tower. It lost its doors and all its siding in Hurricane Charlie. It was rebuilt. It lost its doors again. During Hurricane Ian, the back wall blew out. It was wrecked structurally, could not be rebuilt. It's been torn down. We're going to do something that we should have done years ago and turn the building 90 degrees so it faces a taxiway, not a road. and rebuild basically the same building there. We've signed contracts for that. It is, I think they're going to start tearing the slab out in the next few weeks. They started?
Showed up.
They're tearing the slab out, and then the steel should be arriving soon. Just so you know the process, Building 97 across the street has got to be torn down. So the tenants in 97 will be moving into 101 temporarily. They have a right of first refusal to stay in that building, and we have a letter of agreement with them to stay in that building once 97 is rebuilt, and they'll be leasing all three, 96, 97, and 101. Next slide just shows the new hangar. The new ramp that we just replaced is going to stay, thank God, because we spent a lot of money replacing it. It'll be part of their parking lot, and then the new hangar, and then the new apron that will face the taxi lane between Arcadia Aerospace and them. So we'll actually be able to get planes in a hangar for the first time in a long time. The hangar was built for C-130 MRO, and then they brought the first C-130 in and realized the door was 5 feet too small.
Too small. A little short.
They probably should have checked that. So they went bankrupt. Another firm came in and operated out of there for many years, and then it's had 4 or 5 tenants since then. And I think we'll all be happier with a nice new building, meets all the new codes. It'll have a nice hydraulic door that'll stay put. Rolling doors, although they're necessary on big hangars, are a hurricane nightmare, because as the building racks and moves, those doors are literally hanging on a small rail and sitting on a railroad track at the bottom, and the second one comes off those tracks. They all come off, and then the building explodes, as we've seen. Right.
How far can they go with a hydraulic door nowadays? Can they go 100 feet?
175 feet is what they tell me. That's a lot of door.
That's a lot of door.
Yep.
175 feet? And you're talking a door like that, you're talking 50 feet high?
So, projects that are currently bidding and or awarded or awaiting funding or funded, CTC, which we're going to talk about at the next meeting. We are awarding a contract on this. We have all the funding in place. We have a lease with the school board to present to you. We're building everything outlined in red under their funding, and then the little parking lot up the north is the replacement for the lot that we're taking from them when they move 50 spaces that we'll be building with our funds.
Just a general question is, you know, you're starting to see a lot of development up on the north side with hangars, you know, the school board, and what you're looking at. And in the design of those buildings, do we have standards that relate to the color of the buildings? Do we have standards for signs, whether they're on the building or on the ground, whether they're lighted or not lighted? Because, you know, you start getting one that's red and one that's blue and one that's green, it starts to look like a circus.
You guys approved minimum standards just a few years ago. They have all that in there. Yeah,
Well,
we did.
I guess I ought to read them.
You ought to read your notes. Yeah, we did.
And anything that anyone does,
Before you read it.
anything anyone does as development as well, they have to submit to us, and we have to approve everything.
The color codes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we're trying to get away from,
Hodgepodge.
yeah,
That's all.
sometimes things happen. But no, I, especially in an area like this where it's all new, we'd
Yeah.
like to keep some consistency. But at the same time, you know, if you're building your corporate hangar, I want you to be able to have your corporate signage, your corporate colors, but
Will you remind on this map where CTC is currently?
Not on this map.
It's not on this, okay, I'm
Yeah,
like,
so they're down here.
If you look on this big map,
okay, yeah, that's fine.
the big map.
Been a while since I did the tour. Thank you.
So
Yeah, they're in the middle of the
Yeah,
ramp.
would you mind pulling up the big, just.
go back to the second slide, I believe. You can keep going to the big one.
There we go.
So CTC is where you see the last commercial aircraft there in that building. And you guys all have a larger version of this. Somehow I didn't get one. If my eyes are better. They're in that hangar that is on the ramp. That has been on our ALP as to be removed since the 80s.
Is it the blue one?
It's not even colored on there. It's just south. It's that building right there.
Got it.
That little block.
Little block in the middle of the ramp.
Yeah.
So they'll be evacuating that building. They own some of the portables, we own some of the portables, and the building itself, we'll probably tear it down as soon as it's...
Okay, so it's not leasable, or,
It's just in a bad spot. That used to be the end of the airport. And, then we expanded to the south, and it's kind of always been in the way.
Better tear it down before somebody rents it.
I'm just going to throw it out there, and just for keep it in your back pocket, I had the privilege of attending a Civil Air Patrol meeting, and I've developed a very soft spot for that program, especially their cadet program, in addition to what we're about to do with CTC. And if there's an opportunity that we can facilitate some way or help them to find a permanent home, that would be ideal.
So I talked to them a couple of weeks ago and did offer them the portables. Not in that location, but the portables, that they could relocate to another place on the airport. They're pretty big, and we'd have to look at the cost of doing that and how that would be facilitated.
They're currently still occupying or using the experimental aircraft facility.
Yes.
As a
Co-op, yeah.
So just want to put that out there. If there's
But they need space for their drills and stuff, right? That's the issue there.
And that,
their home was destroyed in,
Yeah.
was it Charlie or Ian? I think it was Ian, wasn't it?
Charlie and Ian,
Both, okay. Old buildings.
yeah.
Wasn't that hangar originally built by PGI back in the 70s?
PGI in the 70s, then Air Trek operated out of there for a while, but I mean, it is a commercial, or is a metal building with a 20-year lifespan, built in, I think, 71.
20
Was that the one redone by the college that came here from? They did some.
They spent a significant amount of money making it habitable again. So the Aviation Technical Facility, really nice facility. Hope to have it completed by mid to the end, prior to the new semester in 2025. Got great bids on it. We're very excited that we're going to be able to build it for the price we are. But that's it. Obviously, we have been managing the grant. We're going to manage the construction. This is CTC's layout. We facilitated the design, but this is what they wanted, through some massaging of the plans, because when you first tell people they're getting a new building, it was much bigger, it was much nicer. But this is what everyone can afford, and it houses them now and into the near future. Some additional infrastructure that we're going to put in the area of CTC, which will connect our parking lot and CTC's parking lot, and then the new east area in the aviation expansion, AVX area, is some roadway infrastructure that includes electrical, water, and sewer that will feed the new MRO that is going to go kind of where U and V are. And then we have the opportunity to turn that road to the east to support some additional hangars along Taxiway Gulf. And then eventually, if we can get funding for the infrastructure development through the DOT or the FAA, we will build that additional taxiway to access those other hangars. And that, we have the design done, we're doing some modifications to it. We could probably bid that shortly. And we're kind of waiting on the MRO to give us a layout so that we can make sure it ties in correctly. The next slide. Just a little bit of the project, the drainage will tie in to our existing drainage swale going west down Challenger, and also incorporate the drainage for CTC, so both projects have to go kind of at the same time. Next slide. This is our big FAA project this year. You guys will recall we were originally doing Alpha and Charlie, and then Geotech came back, subsurface investigation, decided that it needed to be a complete rebuild, not just a rehab of the taxiway. This taxiway was rehabbed in 2005. Got a lot of traffic on it since then, and the rutting in the asphalt, the base material, is significant. So it's a good time to rebuild it. We're going to take out all the base, all the asphalt. Hopefully we're going to use most of that to build our perimeter roads. But then we have to do some major modifications at the Charlie Delta intersection. This is requirements of the new FAA guidelines for direct ramp to runway access, and all intersections have to be at 90 degrees now. So that's why you see Charlie turning and changing the intersection location, as well as that bypass that runs around the ramp area.
The future bypass you're showing on there,
So we're building...
you're going to build that part?
We're building what you see in the red.
Go to the next slide, Kelly. We'll show.
Yeah, next slide. So that's what we're building.
Who came up with the bypass?
Well, we have to do it because of the direct, you can't have direct ramp runway access anymore. So we had to put a hole in it, and so this was from our master plan. I mean, this is right out of the master plan. And then ultimately, we'll tie that all the way down to Taxiway Foxtrot, which will eliminate a lot of the congestion around the commercial ramp.
Going to be some interesting turns.
And I have argued with our designers a lot on those terms.
Who designed that? Are they in the room? No, I figured.
And it is much different today than it was originally.
Oh, yeah,
And
times have changed, sure.
And the FAA's, I'm not a fan of the fillets, I'm not a fan of the way they do these things anymore, but
No, I agree with you, yeah.
big project funded by Bill, infrastructure, and FAA entitlements. We are waiting on that grant, should be any day now. We have the contractor ready to go, right? Yeah.
Ready to go.
Next, our ARC truck.
That is crazy.
So we bid it out. We found out that the FAA funded this last week. We haven't received the grant. We're waiting on it, but it was on the list of grants that came out. Our two current trucks are E1s, which is right up the street in Ocala. E1 has decided to get out of the ARC truck business, so this is a Rosenbauer truck. They are a lot more funky looking.
I've never seen anything like
Looks just
that.
like the Oshkosh truck, they had one up there.
Yeah. If we paid for it ourselves, we could have a really neat paint job. Another airport, they sent me a picture, I mean, theirs is purple and green and, Flat black and green, and I don't think it meets any FAA guidelines.
Is this thing, yours is what, red?
Green.
We're gonna be that color green.
Yes, it'll be just like our other.
Historic green.
I think it's a nice Irish green.
This will be this will have the alternative foam in it, or it will be designed for one of the two alternative foams. We haven't finished the final, which one we're going to use, and then once this is in place, we'll do the process of cleaning our other truck and replacing the equipment in it. So we have two trucks. We're currently in Index D airport, which only requires one, but we still maintain two. The 737s are in Index C, which we were when we had MD-80s, so we'll go back to requiring two. So we'll keep all of our trucks operational until this one's here, and then while we do the transition of foam, we'll still have two trucks operational.
You're not going to keep the third?
We're going to keep the third on the airport. We're probably going to work out, we've been talking to the county about working out a donation where they can use it at their training facility and let them do the transition to the new foam.
How do they clean out the old trucks? How do they do that?
Good question. So there is...
Might explain what it is, the agent in there is...
The agent in there is something that you've probably washed your hands in.
Yeah.
Because it looks like soap. It's a foam. It's got a chemical in it that's a long chain poly something or other, PFOA. It is now been certified as hazardous. Is anyone drinking out of styrofoam?
Same thing.
You have it in your mouth.
Nice.
If you have a waterproof shirt from Columbia, it's in that shirt. It's in Teflon. It's in stainless steel. It's in everything we use. But we spray it on the ground, and that's bad. So the FAA was mandated 5 years ago. They were given 2 years to come out with an alternative. This year they came out with one. They've now certified a second. They were 3 years late. They have to go through the military because the military also uses this. And so we have 2 mil specs now that are certified. We have 2 vendors, but they're sole sourced. We'll be starting from scratch on this truck. Currently, I think Naples has been the first airport in Florida to transition. I know Portland has been the first large hub airport to transition. Portland washed their trucks once. The FAA or the military came out with a 2 rents program, which the FAA then said, this is what we want to do, and then the next week rescinded it. So we don't know. We're going to talk to Naples. They're putting together a best practices or what they did. They'll be publishing that. We'll be getting with them. I've been on a lot of calls, federal affairs as well as some of the ARF talking about this, because here's the big problem. This is a forever chemical. It's in the plastics, in the stainless steel tanks. It's in there forever. We wash these things out. We say they're fine. We test it a year from now. It's probably going to show. And we're testing to parts per billion. So we're going to do the best we can. The hard part's going to be how do we get rid of the 1,500 gallons of, once we rinse it, we have 1,500 gallons of contaminated material. There are a few companies out there that are taking it. We have 55-gallon drums of this. It lasts 5 years. We have a few that are out of date, so we're just storing those. Ultimately, we're going to have to get rid of all of that. It's a major issue.
The contact that I sent you, is that company is what we're talking about?
Yeah. One of the companies doing it.
Dissertation at Southeastern Builders Conference. For some reason, Just happened to meet them and
And it's not us, it's not, the airport industry is one of the biggest industries, but our fire department uses it. I mean, there was a fuel spill out on I-75 about 5 years ago, and the fire department came and said, can we have 50 gallons of your foam? They
I
sprayed it all over
remember
the
that,
side
yeah.
of I-75. When the air show had the fire in their drag car, we sprayed it all over that. Today, that's an environmental cleanup, and it could cost millions of dollars to clean that area up. So it's something that we have been, fighting, because obviously we're a point source and an easy target.
yeah, when we have a sewer spill, we just throw some lime on it and be done with it.
And we've been mandated by the federal government, we've had no option but to use this. And until a few years ago, we had to spray it daily. Now we actually have a recirculation system that shows that the system works, but it doesn't put any out. All right, next, under design. The new FBO hangar, we have been working with our design build team on this one for the better part of 2 years, and it's just been a terribly expensive process, and we think we have a solution for building A, and then building B, we're actually working on an RFP to put out, and we can build the hangar with offices for building B, and the FBO hangar is just a hangar without offices that will just be for transient tenants that want to put their plane inside a hangar. It'll just be a place that the FBO can then rent out on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So next slide shows you the hangar, 120 by 100, a hydraulic door, sits right next to the FBO, and it's big enough to have a citation, a large citation in it. So we're currently on hold with this one, but we're getting the pricing down. I think we're at a point where we're probably ready to bring it to the board and start the site work on this. Obviously, a lot of fill, and while we're doing the CTC projects, it's a good time to just start filling that entire area. So, next project. So one of the things that we have to do, and ultimately will change the way we access the airport from the north, is we have to disconnect Golf Course Boulevard through Challenger. So Henry Street will come down to a cul-de-sac just on the east side of the sewage treatment or sewage pump station, and traffic coming out of Challenger and down Golf Course will have to go out to Piper, which is a better road. You're not going through a school zone, you're not going through a subdivision, and it'll just eliminate a lot of the internal traffic through the airport and put it back on Piper Road where it belongs. But it's a requirement because our RPZ, or Runway Protection Zone, has a road in it, and although that was not an issue when we built the road, it wasn't an issue when we extended the runway. They've changed their rules because of a crash a few years ago where a few cars got crushed by an airplane that went off the end of the runway, and it's the reason we had to move Woodlawn on the south when we extended 15 that way, and the reason we're going to take this out.
That's what the dog leg is in there for the RPZ.
Yeah. So what is currently Golf Course will become an internal road to the airport, be part of our perimeter road. The maintenance facility will then dump directly into the airfield or be part of the airfield, plus it's public side parking that will be coming down Golf Course. And we'll be extending Challenger all the way to Piper, as well as putting a intersection stoplight in that area.
Will you get involved with the pond that's there?
Right now, the design is to fill that section of the pond.
The north section of the pond.
The north
fill it
section of
in.
the pond.
Whose pond is that?
It's ours.
It's ours.
It's ours. It's a part of our
Drainage.
master drainage. We are looking at some options for that, and I'll probably bring that to the board in the next few months. All right, Perimeter Road Phase 2A is a perimeter road that picks up on the north or the south ramp next to EAA, runs around the RPZ, or the RSA, runway safety area of 4 and 33, and then connects to the fence line. Currently, this is driven 3 or 4 times a day in a Jeep that is trudging through water. And no, they're not, because I told them they're not allowed to, but I see the Jeep dirty all the time, so, and they can't help it, they have to do it. The backside of the airport is underwater. But that's that project. It is scheduled for next year, I believe.
25, correct.
25. So that's it. It will just be, it's a gravel road. Just be for internal traffic. Has to be built, though, to handle an ARF truck, so it'll be a pretty heavy gravel road. Next slide. Taxiway Alpha. I'm kind of glad that we're not doing it this year, because having Charlie and Alpha down at the same time would be a pain. We're going to have to cut off access to through the fence for a while. We're going to have to back taxi for a while. So this will be another complete reconstruction project. We'll be doing that with our 25 entitlements, as well as probably the last year of our bill money and some discretionary money. But that'll be designed. Actually, most of it's already designed because we did it during when we were doing Alpha and Charlie. And then we'll be putting that out to bid and then going in for the grants in this next coming fiscal year.
You include any run-up pads anymore? Especially with the use of that runway all the time, a place to pull off.
So the run-up pads are in the master plan, and they were in the master plan because of the GA traffic that was presumed because of Western Michigan. Since that hasn't come to fruition, they're still there, and we're looking, and our traffic count's going up, and some of our providers, our training companies are really ramping up. So we're looking at it. The ability to put them in isn't precluded by anything we're doing.
Because, I was going to talk about it later, but I'm not going to talk about it now. We're starting to look at some capacity problems. I think
No, we're not even close to capacity.
We got a lot of flying schools and a lot of airplanes on the ramp.
We do. We've gone from 80,000 ops a year to what, 120?
120.
But, theoretically, 80,000 ops per runway per year.
Is that what, I don't know what the new numbers are.
So we're well within our capacity. It's a lot higher than it was.
Yeah, okay.
And it's not commercial traffic. I mean, we have 8,000 operations a year. Not,
But you got a crazy mix. You got Airbuses, you got
yesterday I saw
military jets, and you got Piper Cubs, and I know I was out flying the other day, and we held out west of 41 forever to get in,
Yesterday, we saw a Cessna landing on 15, a gyrocopter taking off on 9, and an Airbus landing on 4. And so, yes, our mix of traffic is, I felt like we were at Oshkosh for a second, but we didn't have 3 landing on one.
Well, I know the guy in gyrocopter.
Scared me a little too, but I love those things. They shouldn't fly.
Wait till he gets his jet going.
So taxiway will change a little. It's been a 60-foot taxiway forever, which is not a non-standard size. It'll go back to 50, which is the same as Gulf and same as Charlie's going to be. and Delta is now, so.
Boy,
You always hate giving away pavement, but
yeah, things have changed, those used to be 75s.
yes. And with paved shoulders, which we can't do anymore. All right, next slide. Master drainage plan, this is dear to my heart. It's going along. It's fine. I've met with the designers. Scott is as crazy as ever, but plodding through this, and we'll have a new master drainage permit someday. It's exciting stuff. Nobody cares about master drainage but me. Next slide. So plan projects for 2025, like I said, rehab taxiway, reconstruct taxiway A and Perimeter Road. These are all FA entitlement projects, so we have a little PFC funding in each of them to match our side of it, and then the bipartisan infrastructure bill money for the other piece of it. So. All right, next slide. So the highlighted projects, the ones that are real exciting. The rental car replacement building, that'll be, we did a terminal study a little while ago, and it was determined that the rental car building would probably be best if we put it back inside the terminal. We didn't know how we would fund that. Hurricane Ian solved that problem for us. We're going to get about $5.5 million in insurance to build this building and use CFCs for the rest. We're going to move everything that's in the current building into this building, including the TSA offices, all the rental car function, as well as our staff function. This will have loading docks, so we'll stop having tractor trailers in front of the terminal unloading during busy hours. But for a while, it won't connect. It'll connect in the ultimate layout. So you'll still walk outside in our beautiful weather to get to the rental car facility.
What are you guys guessing cost?
Next slide, please. We'll get there.
Okay.
It's in here somewhere. So this is a rendering of it from our architects and engineers.
Beautiful sign.
Beautiful building, beautiful sign. We're going to move it from the existing building to that one. Different type of construction. Everything we've done so far has been tilt wall concrete. This will be insulated metal panels, a lot faster, and in a tight site, bringing in concrete panels just wasn't feasible. And these are actually just as stable, although if something big hits it, they may dent where the concrete won't, but
Hurricane proof,
they're hurricane resistant. Proof is a hard word to say, but they're resistant.
resistant.
And those two guys will probably not be fighting in the actual one when we're done.
Hopefully that airplane will be flying.
And the airplane won't be landing on top of it either. Next.
I'll also add, it has to be that metal style building because of insurance.
Yeah, that's the other thing. So it has to be like for like. We're replacing a metal building with a metal building. But it's honestly, you're not going to notice the difference because we'll be painted the same. We're repainting the existing terminal, painting this building. Will have painted metal panels, and the texture on it's the same as the other buildings. So.
And you said the existing rental car facility is coming down eventually, yeah?
It is occupiable, it's not salvageable.
No, that's a good way to say.
Yeah, there's a lot of twisted steel. So, next slide shows you the layout. We have 3 rental car companies, although we have 6 or 7 agencies. Today, one company owns 4 or 5 brands. So the 3 companies will have their space. We have room for additional. We're just going to leave that open space right now. Probably put some vending in there. We've just talked to our current news and gifts and food vendor, and they're going to bring in some vending machines for that area. We're going to have a really nice unfinished loading area or unloading area, so you can back up semis in there, take stuff out, put it in there, and then during non-busy hours, the vendors can pick it up and then roll it on pallets into the terminal. TSA offices, identical to what they have, size-wise. Just got to get GSA to sign a new lease, and then our staff. Everybody who's in the terminal will be moving into this building, plus a little break room. We'll have some storage for toilet paper and janitorial supplies, and that's about it. So it's not exciting, but it's new and very much needed.
Where the existing rent-a-car building is, that becomes a parking lot?
That'll be ready lot.
Ready lot for...
Yeah. So the building, you can see, well, it's on the left. And it'll be separated from the existing terminal by the future bag return system that we just don't have the need for yet.
That's a little section in the middle.
Yeah. So we're going to put in, right now, we're going to put in our Uber lot, our, not waiting lot, but our pickup lot, our taxi lane, and a food truck court there. And so I think it'll be a very nice area. Customers can come out of the building, pick up their Ubers, pick up, the food trucks. That food truck, we don't make any money off of it, but it's been a very nice feature for our employees and for passengers. They enjoy it.
Is there going to be a covered walkway between the two buildings?
Be covered walkway between.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you considered connecting that with a
Yeah.
corridor where
Not a corridor, but a covered walkway.
you go outside, or...
Yeah. So next slide. Again, that's just the front of the building, the existing building. Those are the new colors. So we're going to kind of color orange for arrivals, blue for departures. Go Gators.
What happened to the sidewalk
Which sidewalk?
in front of the baby building?
It's there. The architects. And we're probably not going to have a wooden sidewalk in the parking lot. But sidewalks are all the same. Actually, we're going to add a fourth lane and a sidewalk all the way eventually. So next slide, just, so this is actually the view that you can see the rental car facility. And the new paint scheme. Next slide. So here you go, $8.1 million project, $5 million from insurance, and we have a grant from the DOT. It's what they do to get you pregnant, and then they'll be funding the balance in out years. One of the reasons we applied for that loan was so we could fund these projects now and then reimburse ourselves with the future.
That's what the $3 million is.
That's what the future.
That's a loan.
No, that is a grant, but it's not this year. It's going to be over the next 3 years. They're $1 million a year for 3 years.
They fund rent-a-car facilities? Really?
DOT will fund revenue generating facilities.
Gotcha.
So they'll
That
fund
makes sense.
a lot of the things that aren't fundable by FAA inside even the terminal is DOT eligible.
James, pretty good at responding to the questions about the jet bridges, but another question that comes up very commonly is the covered walkway out to the ramp. Obviously that's a semi-permanent structure, and I assume that they ship parking, plane parking
We can
spots
discuss
and-
that when we get to the terminal. I can show you the covered walkways we're building and how they will connect.
But they just parallel the terminal though, right? I'm talking about perpendicular out to
Yeah,
where
so
you
when we
step
get
onto the
there,
ramp.
we
Okay.
can look at that. Any questions on the rental car facility?
Yeah, I was just kind of rolling them into one. I realize they're not connected, but
They're close. Okay, so obviously, this was not in our plans. Hurricane Ian made it essential. I'm actually excited that we can do it. I think it'll be a lot better facility for our customers, and kind of put ready return all in the same area, so we're not moving cars around as much. We've already signed the agreement with the contractor, and we hope to get that started soon. I think we have our permits now, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's in permitting.
It's in permitting. We just
With DRC.
resolved a landscaping issue with the county, so I think we're almost done. All right, next slide. Here's some pretty pictures. The front elevation, the side elevation's back. You can, I think most people will probably access the building from the south side, but leave through the front, walk across the street, pick up their cars. And then we have the loading docks, or they're not dock high, but all of our stuff comes in on trucks that have gates on them, so dock high would not work. And, but they'll be out of the roadway, which will be a major improvement. Hopefully this will be done mid-next year. I'd probably say late next year, to be honest, just because of construction, but we hope to start this soon. Next slide. So to facilitate this, we have to move the ready lot and temporarily, so if you've noticed, we've put a new driveway out of the blue lot onto golf course. We have fenced off this area, and this will become the new ready lot, or temporary ready lot. We'll put a new sidewalk coming out of the terminal all the way down. We'll have crosswalks, lighted crosswalks with flashing yellow lights, push buttons, so it'll be safe. The three rental car companies, the three major brands, this is the same layout they currently have. And then there's going to be 6 or 7 spots that'll be available for commissioners or airport employees to park when they're flying out, so we don't have to bus you all over the place in the middle of the night. But you would like that?
Got my attention.
The rent-a-car customers, they're gonna have to hoof it to this lot, the temporary lot.
Right across the street from where they are now. And they're going to come out of the back of their building and walk across there.
Got it. Who's gonna police that parking spot?
They are going to police their parking spots, we're going to police ours.
You know, I have noticed, it's kind of interesting, especially on the weekends and after hours, the public has, I probably shouldn't say this, they go in administratively,
Oh,
they
yeah.
park in there.
They wait there.
They wait there to circumvent the pay lot.
Well, and the cell lot does fill up, and so
It's okay.
we don't mind. And the Ubers wait there too.
Yeah, on
even
the
though-
north side, yeah.
Even though it's not much further away from their lot. And I understood that when their lot was gravel, and now it's paved. I don't quite understand. Inline baggage system, a hugely complex project internally, not externally. It's pretty easy. We're just filling in a ditch and building a new building. Next slide. It is directly south of the existing terminal in an area that used to be our old restaurant, and then a swale where the alligators lived. We have piped that. The outbound baggage makeup area for the airlines will be in a nice covered area for the first time. They'll be able to load from both sides. A slant plate carousel will go in, bags will come over the top, drop down onto it. We can load probably 20 aircraft simultaneously off of this belt. And we have the room to build a second one of these in the future. We're currently at 300 bags per hour. This will take us up to about 2,000 bags per hour.
Wow.
But we're probably going to have to put a staff member on to maintain this, so that's why, we're renegotiating our contracts, and all of this will be part of it. The airlines need to cover the baggage systems, so they will in the future. This is a picture of it and the cost breakdown, $23 million. TSA's paying 95% of the allocable costs. Those are the costs that are allocable to them. They don't pay for the belt system, so that is ours. And so the airline agreed during their PFC negotiations to add that. That's $7 million, and the DOT is funding it at $3 million. Next slide. So DOT, we got approval from PFC. We signed an other transaction agreement with the TSA and OTA. AECom then designed it, and we put it out to bid. I think A Squared is currently constructing it. And we're in construction. Next slide. I think they finished pouring the stem wall and it's starting to go vertical. They should be pouring, they've done all the underground, they should be pouring the slab soon, Brett?
Next week.
Next week.
Next week.
So I think it'll start moving a lot faster. We did have to move a stream, do a lot of this. If this was a green site, it would probably be dried in by now, but it wasn't. It was an old site. We had a lot of utilities to relocate, a lot of things to move. Our generator, our HVAC system used to sit in there. The old clay pipe coming off the restaurant had to be rebuilt. We are going to reuse a lot of the sewer that was in that location. So a lot of work. Reconstruction sites are much harder than green sites, and this is going to prove to be the case in this one. But I think you'll start seeing a lot more progress as we move forward. Next slide. So this doesn't show the outside baggage, does it, Ray?
I'm sorry.
This doesn't show the bag belt?
It does not. There you go.
Here we go. Let's look at the 3D one so everybody will get excited. So we are putting an outside bag drop. You excited?
Oh, thrilled. I think the word when you talk, I'm always worried when you're just excited. I'm more happy when you're thrilled.
Thrilled. So we are putting a bag drop on the outside, so the airlines can utilize either an outside check-in or what mainly this is for is Sunseeker. It asked us to look at them being allowed to collect bags at the curb. At the hotel, transport the bags here. They do it in Vegas. They have to get TSA approval and they have to have mechanisms in place. But so they would bring the bags here for their customers, drop them off. It really would eliminate a lot of people at the front desk, but also allow for curbside check-in, which we're hoping they will man in the future. So that's the gray belt that you see all the way on the north, the light gray belt that'll run around and tie in. The other north belt is where the existing bags come down. We have right now bags go north and south to a T and then into the bag screening area. That'll just change and they'll all go south. They'll be picked up here and then they'll run through the 3 large gray machines and get automatically screened. Nobody touches a bag anymore. There's a room in here where TSA has their operators. If the bag is alarmed, it will automatically kick off, go to one of these tables on the top of the belt system that'll be manually screened, similar to what they do now for bag alarms. And then that bag just hops back on and goes back out into the system and gets kicked off. And then the plate at the bottom is where the bags will go, and then the airline will pick them up from there.
Oh, that's interesting.
A lot of moving parts. How many motors? I mean, we were at Pi, they built one 4 years ago, and I think we have 5 motors now in our entire system. It's probably gonna have 50 motors now.
Jim, what does something like that cost extra to do that? Do you know?
$21 million.
$21 million.
Holy moly.
About half of that's the bag belt
Yeah,
system.
bag belt. So $12 million of it is the building and the machines. The machines aren't even included in that, but.
Oh,
But-
Another $3 million apiece.
Yeah, so the machines are about $9 million. And this is the reason we don't need this yet, but TSA came to us and said, hey, another airport just backed out,
Yeah.
and the money's available. Do you want to design it, and then we'll see if we can fund it? And we said, yes. You don't ever say no, because ultimately the TSA would tell us we need it, tell us to fund it, and they'll reimburse us over 10 years. So it was just, everything fell into place, and 300 to 2,000 bags an hour is a big difference. We rarely we do go over 300 bags an hour, and bags just pile up back there. Our bag room can be a disaster at times, so this will be a great improvement.
Do people pay extra for insurance also? No?
Now, there's great fear in my heart because there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that break. And if something breaks, as long as it's the third belt or the second belt, the first one still works. If it's the first belt, then we're moving a lot of bags manually. So that's why we have to have a lot of parts on the shelf, and we'll have drills where we practice stitching belts together.
Yeah, I was wondering if you got a maintenance area, parts room for it.
We do.
You're not showing anything.
We don't have the walls in here, this is just the bag belt.
Bag belt.
The next slide, please. Unless we have any more questions on baggage, let me start the one that probably people want to talk about
That's
the most.
very interesting, yeah.
So the commercial terminal expansion, as you recall, we did a little project where we looked at what we needed, a little terminal area plan and expansion plan. We got that approved by the FAA so that we could move forward with the design. And so what you're looking at, EE, in the light orange is the new area we're going to construct. Go to the next slide. We're adding, well, and you can see all the numbers.
51.
Circulation, we're adding a significant amount. We have 2,700, 16,000. Hold rooms, we're adding 20,000. We're adding 6,500 in concessions, a little over 3,000 in restrooms. And we're not really, electrical, mechanical, all the other stuff that goes along with it. Then there are 51,867 new square feet. The existing terminal is about 62,000 square feet. So almost double.
Holy moly.
And so 51,800 new terminal, and then 22,000 square feet of the existing terminal will be renovated to handle the new location of screening. So next slide. I don't think you guys care about this, but it just shows how people are going to access the planes during construction. We're going to build 2 tunnels basically through the new construction, so they go out from the existing hold rooms. The bag carts will still come around and through as they do now, even after construction. So there'll be air-conditioned passageways, probably be Connex box type buildings. I just went through LaGuardia, I didn't even know I was walking in a Connex box till I got out and looked back through a window and realized that that's what they're doing. The insides look like you're walking through a corridor. Next slide. So this is it.
Wow.
Almost all of the existing hold room will be converted into TSA checkpoint. We built our checkpoint for 4 lanes. We only had 3. I demanded 4. I have a guy on staff who said we'll never get 4. Ray?
I was wrong.
We now have 5. We shoved a 5th one in. We had to lie to TSA and say those columns don't exist. But we got it in there. We're running 5 right now. We have not had over a 20-minute wait time all last season. So we're doing really well.
Wow, that's terrific.
But, you know, we want to be prepared as things grow, and this allows us to go up to 8. We're going to put in 5. That's all we get from the TSA right now, but we'll have room for 8. And it's also larger to accommodate their new machines. Their new machines are about 20% bigger than their old machines.
50% slower.
And 50% slower, so, yeah.
Queuing area is a little short.
Queuing area is huge now. It's like 3 times what we
Yeah,
had.
that's right.
Yeah.
Do you ask these people that come through our airport why they're here? Are they visiting grandchildren? Are they looking for a new place to live?
I think we've had, Tourism Bureau has done.
They do it here?
We had some electronic survey boards that people filled out. We've done some paper surveys, you know.
Okay. Do you have any conclusions or?
A little bit of everything.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
I'd like to see that.
So, single-story pre-engineered metal building, insulated metal panels, metal studs, standing seam metal roof. It's exciting stuff.
Lightning prone or?
Panels are good. I've had
Grounded.
experience with
They
them.
are really, really nice, and, you know, for construction like this. And
That's
they also
quick.
allow for expansion so easily. We just pop them out and keep going. Going to use, similar to what we have now, carpet tiles in the seating areas, some kind of hard surface in the non-seating areas, whether that's terrazzo or concrete, stained concrete. We're probably leaning towards a stained concrete just because the terrazzo's been a pain to
Terrazzo's
maintain.
kind of slippery, isn't it?
I mean, it's not bad, but it's
cheaper.
It is, yeah.
Get sued.
So that's the preliminary design. I think you're going to see, we're going to take the wraps off the columns so they're not quite as obtrusive. You know, we've been lucky not to have any columns in our building to date. This one's going to require 1 column line where the new building and old building come together. There's just a section there we have to tie in, and the roof lines don't work without a column line. So next slide. Yeah. Brett thought this was really cool. Next slide.
That's weird.
So project elements, a lot of this is trying to get the new power in, new generators. We're going to tie into the existing fire control system. We have to expand our fiber optic network inside and outside the building, expand our Wi-Fi, our flight information data systems, our GIDS, FIDS, BIDS, baggage system, that all of the displays will be updated. We're putting in 2 new air handlers, 2 new chiller units, or at least 1 additional chiller unit, which we're adding. We have a spot for a 3rd one, which that's going in for baggage handling. Now we're going to have a 4th one, so we're trying to look at a place to do that. Talking to FP&L about putting ice storage facility so we could chill water at night and then use that to cool the place during the day, so we're not using as much electricity during
Well, that's interesting.
peak hours. It's a space issue. Can we do it? And then we're going to have to upsize our domestic water pipe system. We currently have 2 2-inch lines coming into the building, and we're going to have to bring in another one. But considerably more restaurants, more bathrooms. So we're going to put in a full-service restaurant, which will require grease traps, vent fans, everything else. So next slide. So what you're seeing now is what we're actually building. We're building the 5 lanes. We're going to have some additional space next to TSA will be open space right now. We're trying to figure out what to put in there. The blue areas are all our concession areas. As you come through screening, you're going to go directly into the larger sit-down bar restaurant, sit-down restaurant with some grab-and-go. The blue to the right, the first right box is the existing bar. That's going to be converted into the Dunkin' Donuts. And then the left concession area will be a grab-and-go, same concept. So, and then we'll be moving what's currently in Gate 1 down into part of the baggage handling system. Will be another grab-and-go concession area. Next slide, please. Restroom way out in the main terminal. Don't yell at me. 17 men, 15 women.
Oh, sure.
Okay, you want to talk about it now or later?
That is 3 times what we currently have.
Are men more,
And what we currently have is still there, so.
are men more nervous flying than women?
Well, my criticism, and I've already voiced this to Jim, that whenever you see long lines in any public building, where is it? It's at the women's bathrooms.
I think we currently have 6 in each, so this will expand that.
And the other criticism, looking at this design, just throw it out for what it's worth. My experience, our current entry and exit into the restrooms are the same way. Like if you're going into the restroom and somebody's coming out with a bag.
The corridors are twice the size in this one as they are in the other one, but I agree with you, I'd love to not do it.
I know it takes up more space to do all that,
Yeah.
but I'm just throwing it out for what it's worth.
Yeah.
When you start looking at customer convenience questions.
What's a family bathroom? I mean, you got grandma and grandpa and mom and dad and 12 kids?
It's so you can
Take a
so
changing station and all.
So
That's
we're not only
different.
required now to have a family restroom, which is, I think is a great idea, someone who had a kid.
Yeah,
It's nice to be able to just go in there and not, you can let one run around while you take care of one.
Or when you're a girl dad like I am, it's nice to take my girls into the...
Yeah, and not take them into the other.
Yes.
We have
Safety.
a lactation room, which is a requirement. And then we also have an adult family restroom, which has an adult changing table for adult handicap kids. That's not in this facility, it's across the hall.
That's amazing.
So, next slide. So this is down a little bit further. We'll have another set of, in the main terminal, 6, and 3 in the family. And then we have the adult changing area here. That is next. So these are on either side of the TSA checkpoint. So a lot more restrooms. I listened to you. I don't think anyone cares about communications. It's just, it's a big issue today is all of the data that's expected by the passengers. When I got here, we had 1.5 megabit per second dial-up. We're now pushing 500, and that's about all we can get. And we have 3 providers with an automatic failover, which didn't work the other day, but we're working on that. That's not JR's fault, but it didn't work. Our main line was cut out on Airport and Taylor, and so a lot of us lost communications. Had nothing to do with the Microsoft outage, which did affect us, but
Cut the kid.
the cable provider cut it themselves doing some work. Now, next slide. So this is a $43 million project, $44 million project. We currently have 14 million in PFCs, 10 million in bill terminal money. Keep in mind, very little FAA money is allocable towards terminals. So it's PFC money, and we are going after some additional funding this year in the bill. This is the 4th year for bill money, and then there will be one more. So we have 2 more bites at that pie. And then we are in process to get another 14.5 million from the DOT is requested through CIS. which is the Strategic Intermodal Fund, which we have not gotten a lot of money. It's for intermodal systems, which we are now part of. We fought very hard to be part of it, and we were the only commercial airport in the state that wasn't, so we hope to get some money through that. Obviously, we're not going to start tearing into this thing until we have all the money in place, but we'll keep moving forward to get this project going and keep you guys updated on the funding situation. Here's our plan. We'd like to start site work at the end of season, so we would finish all the design this year. We're finishing up our estimates. Actually, we should be finished with most of the estimating. Now, our team has been going over the schematic designs and the initial deliverables, and we've had multiple meetings with the contractor and the design team. So I think it's all back in their hands. Next slide. We'd like to complete the design by the end of this year and then get a GMP, a guaranteed maximum price. And then our goal would be, as soon as the spring break push ends, to start all the work on the ramp. And when we start all the work on the ramp, that's where the mess starts. We have to move the planes back. We have to start digging up the trench that's out there that's going to be now inside the building. So ramps have to drain away from the planes and then away from the building. You've got to have a trench drain or a drain system within 50 feet of the building to make sure fuel doesn't come towards the building. So all of that has to move back. And we can only take out one spot at a time, so that's going to be a major project. You won't see any terminal work, I would say, until I think 9 months
After we start, correct?
after we start. Yeah, we'll be outside.
Going vertical.
Yeah. So if we move forward, it's end of 2027, May 20, I would say mid to late 2027, but these are our current project estimates. So let's go to the next slide and we can talk about what you wanted to talk about, Mr. Thornberry. We are currently, all the planes will be moved back. Spots 1 and 2 are currently being restriped. Those were part of the FBO ramp that'll become part of the commercial ramp. That's also where we just had our fuel spill, so we have contractors out there today tearing up the asphalt, putting down new asphalt.
Oh, wow.
We'll be redoing the gate system so that all the traffic that comes in goes into a little Sally Port multi-gate. Is that still the plan? Yeah. And then inspect it and then onto the ramp. We'll have a covered walkway coming off of the existing terminal, and then what's in yellow, which is the existing, which will be the bag claim system. We'll have one gate inside the baggage claim area or the baggage handling building, and then 2 gates in the existing building. There'll be a covered walkway going out to spot 1, and then there'll be covered walkways off the back of the building all the way down to spot 10, and then additional covered walkways extending from spot 10 out to spot 12.
And those are parallel or perpendicular?
They're parallel to the building. They don't go perpendicular, and that's really because of the GSE equipment traffic. It's just trying to move that equipment around and having, the stanchions on those are every 10 feet. You can't get tugs through there. You can't get the backup equipment through there. The fuel trucks.
So what do other airports with jet bridges do?
They're elevated and they
can just go under.
They can get, most of the equipment goes under.
There used to be, I don't remember what they call them. They didn't work out. I tried them. They had the snake thing that would go out.
Oh, yeah, the accordion.
The accordion deal that would go out, to the airplane, but you still had the stairs you had to go up, so you're going to get wet anyway.
And
the
they,
wheelchairs.
And they are so hot.
Oh, yeah, they're a pain in the butt. I don't know anybody even uses them anymore.
No. No. So I've been asked, what would we do if Delta came in tomorrow and said, we're going to put 8 flights a day to Atlanta, but we need a jet bridge. In this design, with the new baggage handling building there, I think the easiest thing to do would be to go vertical at the end of that terminal. And then you could ultimately access 1 through 4, or even 1 through 5 through jet bridges. And then the existing hangar at the very end is the next, the building that CTC is in. If that came out, you could add 2 or 3 more to that. Extremely expensive concept, but that's how it could be handled in this current configuration.
It used to be done in the days when you had more regional airlines flying prop jets and all that. You had terminal buildings were half or ground level, then you went up to the jet bridge area. Yeah. So it could be done here. It
can be done, and I think it would eliminate some of the traffic around if we went vertical. But I just, it's not that we haven't thought about it, and it's not that it's not possible.
And it depends on whether you want to go into major debt.
So a jet bridge today is about $1.3 million, anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000 a year in maintenance plus personnel costs. That doesn't include the HVAC system or the power, the ground power that's feeding the planes. And it's all an expense that you send back to the airline, but you can't recoup all of it.
Yeah, and you don't have the airline base to do all that either.
And, Allegiant doesn't want them. So that's why I say, if someone comes tomorrow and says, we'll use it, we'll sign a long-term contract.
Where they guarantee some of the debt service.
Some guaranteed. And again, jet bridges are they used to last 20 years. They're lasting 10 years now. I know Sarasota just replaced all of theirs. RSW's in a process of replacing all of their new jet bridges. So they don't last that long. They cost a lot of money to maintain. And unless you have a user that's willing to pay for it, it's just not feasible.
So what would you expect the life expectancy at this site?
At 35% a year, about 5 years. At 10%, 5% a year, I think we have 15 years here. I think in the next master plan, we'll have to look at the ultimate layout and what's going to happen in
20 years from now.
20 years, yeah.
That's beyond my lifetime, most of us.
Right, with AI and all this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't want to scare the crap out of your users. So
that's right.
If you will recall,
there's a balance there.
If you'll recall, Mesa, Arizona, their board went out, did a master plan, and they agreed. Their linear terminal was not going to last. We need to build a new one. Allegiant was growing 30% a year there. And they put together a $220 million construction project 5 years out, and Allegiant slammed on the brakes, started to move all their flights to Sky Harbor, and we don't want to do that. I think Allegiant understands incremental growth and incremental needs, and so we just want to make sure that we're looking at it to make sure it's feasible and it works in their model, Sun Country's model, and hopefully in the future a couple of other airlines models. And like I said, if we get a major carrier that wants something different, it's possible.
Yeah, if I were to guess, if you had to go to a new site and build a terminal facility that most people have in their mind, you're talking $500-600 million at least today.
At least, and the issue with this airport is where's the infrastructure?
Yeah.
Not the land, we have the land, but getting the infrastructure out there. So. So pretty pictures. This will be the site from the rear. Shows the rental car center, shows the baggage handling system. Next slide. The ends of the building, not terribly exciting.
Looks like Alaska.
Next slide. So just a little bit of the inside. Ray, did you draw that A?
I did not.
So baggage handling, and some other thing, or baggage, or screening. So this is probably the more exciting part. We're working with our current vendor for news and gifts and food, and they have brought to us a Wolfgang Puck design. We met with the Wolfgang Puck international developer yesterday. Very excited. He's just finishing Shanghai, and he's going to move straight to Punta Gorda.
A little smaller.
But, so this will be, this is the main one.
No, sir. This is the one further down. Next slide.
So this is a grab and go.
Correct.
So this is the smaller market, a little bar beverage area, grab and go, chilled. This will be the news and gifts, all of the beverages. They'll have fresh made sandwiches and stuff that you'll be able to pull off the shelf and take onto the plane. Open concept, won't be as enclosed as it currently is. You'll be able to access it from the gate area as well as the circulation area. The next slide, so this is the main restaurant. This will be right as you walk out of baggage or out of passenger screening. Similar to what you get in Tampa, you walk out of passenger screening and you go into kind of a food hall. We looked at the food hall idea where you had multiple choices. I think this is a little more cohesive. Bar, sit-down restaurant area. Go to the next slide.
Plus, it's more attractive for one vendor.
One vendor, and so this is actually our layout, and this is what they're proposing. A nice sit-down bar, a nice sit-down restaurant where you can get a meal. Also, we'll have some grab and go on the sides, so you can grab something and take on the plane. You know, passengers have really, they realize they need to get to the airport earlier. They have anxiety about getting through screening, so they want to get through screening and then relax, and this gives them the opportunity to relax, spend money, and obviously that goes right to our bottom line. But we're excited that Favor brought this idea to us. It's a lot more than I would expect at a small hub airport.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Next slide. So this is a continuation of our new Dunkin' Donuts that we just opened. We'll have, go to the next slide. So this is where the existing bar is now. It will become a Dunkin' and a small market that will serve the south side of the terminal. So we'll be able to get coffee in two places. And donuts, we had somebody saying that they were just frozen donuts. They are not. They're made at the Dunkin' Donut factory on Dunkin' Road, about 2 miles from here. So they are very fresh. They're probably the freshest Dunkin' Donut shop in the area.
Now, they build all that themselves, the cost and everything?
We'll have to negotiate, you know, an extension to their contract, but yeah, they would either absorb it or they would pay us back, you know, through agreements with our contractors or their contractors. Everything they've done to date, they've paid for themselves. All right, questions, comments, discussion? We have one more meeting, so.
I know.
That one we have to
but-
vote on, so
yeah.
let's make sure.
I'd just like to say one thing. I think the staff's done an excellent job on
yes,
this.
this was
But the more important thing is, with the Sunshine Law, we don't get to get together as a group to really look into some of this detail stuff. And it helps to educate each other as a group and of course for the public that's out there. And I think that's real important.
Yeah, it's excellent, absolutely excellent this morning.
Again, like the budget, I encourage all of you, if you have specific questions, come sit down, I can get the team together, we can dive in deep on anything. If you want to attend a construction team meeting, let me know, I can let you know when those are. Some of you like construction more than others. Just let me know what you need. We're there. Staff's always available to take you out on site, show you what's going on.
And that's typically how I approach every meeting. Usually James and I speak the day before and go over questions and clarifications, and so it may not appear that we're drilling down. I don't want to take up board meeting time when it's something that's maybe just I kind of know the answer, but let's dive into it deeper. And I don't know if you guys do the same thing or how you approach it, but I agree, Commissioner Hansik, this is a great opportunity on these workshops to really share ideas and express, so thank you. And with that, I'm going to request a biological break before the next meeting.
I've been talking for 3 hours, so.
All right, well, let's go ahead. Any other discussion?
No, this has been excellent.
All right, let's
A++.
adjourn the project development workshop, take a 5-minute break, head into our emergency meeting.
I do believe.
I'm going to go ahead and call the emergency meeting to order.
Let Kelly get back up here and start the
No,
recording.
no. Keep the train rolling. All right, I'm going to call it to order. Reminder to, if you turned your cell phones back on, please turn them off. And now we will get to roll call.
Okay. Mr. Thornberry?
Here.
Mr. Carr?
Present.
Mrs. Oliver?
Here.
Mr. Parrish?
Here?
Mr. Hanzig?
Here?
Mrs. Coppola? Here. Mr. Andrews, you still on the phone?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, citizens input. Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item? Seeing none, we will move on to number 4, ground lease agreement for School Board of Charlotte County.
So you guys have been here for a long time dealing with the school board on this new lease. We are excited to bring it to you. We have, we put together the, what did we call it? A memorandum of understanding or a letter of agreement, or about 6 months ago, we got in front of the school board and we kind of agreed to all the terms, waiting to see what happened with the legislation this year. We were lucky, they were lucky, that we were successful at getting some grant funding to finish off this building. And with that, we presented them the terms for the lease. We've been in negotiations for about the better part of a month with their attorney and our attorney, and we have finally gotten everything signed off. They presented it at their their July 24th meeting. The school board signed the lease, and I'm presenting it to you today. If you go to Exhibit C, you can see they're paying a ground rent, they're paying a funding gap rent at a rate of 5%, and then they're paying additionally within the lease tie down separately at our going rate for tie downs on the ramp.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, first I want to make a couple comments.
Should we do a motion second and then move on to discussion?
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move that the Charlotte County Airport Authority approve a ground lease agreement to the School Board of Charlotte County, Florida for basically the AMP school as presented.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion?
Not a discussion, but I think it's important comment that if it wasn't for the Airport Authority getting involved in the project and the lease and the next motion to build the building, this may not have happened. I mean, we took the bull by the horns and really were instrumental in making this all come together. It's just, I'm not saying the school board wasn't cooperative, they were, but we had to take the leadership on it. I think that's a compliment to this board and staff for doing that and getting all the funding. And
to go along with that, it is not often that two government entities can work this closely together.
Right.
And it's a compliment to both teams, their management, staff, and their board that we've been able to get this through. I can tell you, I've talked to Sarasota County, who has a similar situation with Manatee. Theirs is a mess. And ours is a very good partnership, and Daryl hates when I use that word, but with the two entities, and the new superintendent and I meet monthly, and in person, we talk once a week on this and other issues, and it's just been a very good relationship, and I thank you guys for the support in getting this through, and I thank the school board and the school staff for their understanding, because it was a hard thing to get them to understand the DOT and the FAA rules and the grant process. My staff, Kaylee's managing a grant. I don't think when she came here to be our communications person, she thought she'd be managing grants, but she's been great with this one. And it's been a long process. For those of you who are here when we had Western Michigan leave, and we had CTC and another, what did we call it, Daryl? A co-lease or a simultaneous lease or a concurrent lease, and everyone wondered where the heck that word came from.
Yeah.
So it's been a process, and I really think we're not at the end, but we're towards the end of where they have proven that they can run a successful maintenance training facility and operation, and the FAA has been very complimentary of their process, and so I'm glad we have been able to step in and help them with the construction management, the grant management, and ultimately, leasing them a building that they can use for the next 30 years.
Absolutely.
That's what a great occupation.
It's a great thing for the airport, and I think you're already seeing that in the MRO that's leased 5 acres from us. And I can tell you I've dealt with 6 or 7 MRO operators in the last 5 years. This one has signed a lease, surveyed the land, starting engineering in less than 3 months.
I was going to comment that I'm impressed with the speed of all of this.
Yeah.
Has this been done
This is awesome.
before anywhere else in any airport? This training and
So
schools?
there are other airports that have it. I think ours is in the state of Florida is one of the shining stars, but there are other very good A&P schools through the technical colleges. Technical education has become it's something that schools are now stressing again, thank goodness. And I think Charlotte County has been very progressive on that, and I'm glad to work with them.
Absolutely. Should we call the question? Any more discussion?
I think it's important to note that the school is Charlotte County Public Schools also has it now in the high schools, and they have a curriculum set up there. They're putting a hangar there. So there's this whole linear process to feed a lot of things at the airport in a cooperative process. And, it's sort of very innovative as we went into it from a legal perspective, but it's gelling really well.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. Very good. Now on to number 5, Aviation Maintenance Technician School Construction Contract.
So we went out for bids. So we had to have this number before we could put a lease together, so we know how much we were charging them. We received a lot of interest in this building, and as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bidders, ranging from $5.4 million roughly to $7 million. The budget was 8. The initial estimate was just under $8 million. So we're very happy with them. I'm not concerned about the low bids because we have 5 bids that are very consistently at the bottom. Stellar has been stellar working with us. They're building 3. They're finishing up their 3rd building right now. They'll be moving from that one to this one and 101. So we're excited to continue working with them. They've been a great contractor on the airport, done a lot of metal building work with us, and I think they're getting in the groove here, and that's why they were able to sharpen their pencils and put a pretty good number together.
All right, very good. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board approve allowing our CEO, Mr. Parrish, to execute a contract with Stellar Development, Inc. in the amount of $5,388,754.83 for the construction of the Aviation Maintenance Technical School.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Sounds good.
All right, I will call the question. All those approved, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
3 hours and 2 minutes.
All right,
It hasn't been adjourned yet.
we're getting close. I don't see any commissioner comment section of our agenda, so.
I know it's late, but can you just give a quick update on the FEMA trailer fiasco?
The what?
The FEMA trailer fiasco. Very frustrating. We were approached by the county, asked if there was a location that FEMA could stage trailers. We gave FEMA a site. We were approached by the Florida Department of Emergency Management with the same question. We gave them a site. We gave them both 18-month leases. GSA, who signs all the FEMA leases, required a 6-month extension on all of their leases to go to 24 months. They had just executed that 6-month extension when we received 2 violation notices from the county. I have been dealing with Hector, my counterpart at the county. Although they have not rescinded them, they only had 6 weeks left on their lease at the time that they gave us 30 days to evacuate them. We told them they would be gone in 6 weeks. They were gone. And FEMA has 6 more months left on their lease, and they will be there until the end of that lease. Or Daryl will go and talk to the magistrate, which they have decided they're not going to take us to.
Thank you.
All right.
And I've been holding Daryl back.
All right, well, I will let us end on a happy note then. I will do commissioner comments.
Oh, gosh.
Kathleen?
I think this has been a great meeting, excellent meeting. Thank you for everybody for all your input, very interesting.
Okay, I'm fine with you going with an adjournment.
Very good. Mr. Thornberry?
Great meeting, thank you all. Thank you, staff.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Andrews, any comment? All right, and with that, I will say thank you. All right, well, with that, I will say thank you to everyone. I'm very excited about this, the emergency meeting, and the success that we are going to continue to have with our great partnership with the school board. Thank you all. Have a great day. This meeting is adjourned.